This business meeting of the Board of Education of the Cleveland Municipal School District will come to order. Mr. Stockdale, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Here.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Here.
Mr. Briggs?
Here.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Dr. Sridhar?
Here.
Dr. Thomas? Here. Ms. Welch-Howell?
Here.
There are 8 members present.
Thank you. I would ask everyone who wishes to rise and participate in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As many of you noticed, and as we announced at our last board meeting, we have had some changes in the membership of our board since we met in late June. On July 5th, Mayor Justin Bibb reappointed and administered the oath of office to 3 current Board of Education members, Leah Hudnall, Denise Link, and myself. The mayor appointed me as board chair and Leah Hudnall as board vice chair. Is this better? Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me know. While it is my honor to assume the chair of this board, I also want to recognize the leadership of our outgoing chair and vice chair, Ann Bingham and Robert Hurd. Thank you to Ms. Bingham and Mr. Hurd for your leadership. As Ms. Bingham has also completed her service on our board, I want to thank her for her longtime commitment to our district and students over her 9-year service on the board, and 6 years of which she served as chair, and wish her the best. The mayor also appointed and swore into office 2 new board members, Robert Briggs and Diana Welch-Howell. Robert Briggs is an attorney and a partner and chairman emeritus with Buckingham Law. He has a bachelor's degree from Duke University and a Juris Doctor degree from The Ohio State University. He lives in Bracknell. Diana Welch-Howell works as head of hospital expansion for KeyBank. She has a bachelor's degree from the University of Cincinnati, and she lives in downtown Cleveland. We look forward to working with both of you. Would you each like to say a few words?
Thank you. Excited here. Let it go. Oh, perfect. As you can see, it's my first meeting. I'm excited. I'm humbled to be here, to have the opportunity to serve. I look forward to being able to be of service to the students in this district. As Sarah mentioned, I am employed with KeyBank. I've submitted an affidavit in today's minutes explaining my relationship with KeyCorp and its subsidiaries. I understand that this relationship won't prevent me from service on the Board of Education, but nevertheless, I wanted to make sure that I disclose my interests publicly. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve.
Thank you. I too am deeply honored and humbled to have the opportunity to serve the school district. I'm borrowing a little bit from Dr. Morgan's playbook. I'm here also to listen, to learn, but not to lead, but to help Dr. Morgan lead in every way possible. My focus is first to the students, next to the families, and then next to the hundreds of dedicated professionals who bring excellence to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. From all my study and research, I am convinced that we have a great momentum in this district, and look forward to helping the district become the best it can possibly be through our collective and collaborative efforts. Again, I'm very humbled to be here. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome again. And also, it is our pleasure to welcome Dr. Morgan to his first board meeting as our CEO. As you know, As you know, Dr. Morgan took office on July 24th, and he's hit the ground running. Over the past month, he's worked with board leadership as we work to prepare for this year's board meetings and school year, and we're thrilled to have him. Welcome, Dr. Morgan. I know I speak for the full board when I say we are so very pleased to have you in the role of CEO of our district, and that we look forward to working together in the coming years. Thank you. And before we begin, I also want to congratulate our staff, students, and families on kicking off this new year of school. I hope that you're all feeling really excited and ready. I know that you've put in a ton of work to get to this day, whether you're a staff member, educator, family member, or student, and I want you to know that for students, we can't wait to see all that you'll achieve this year. And families, we're here to work alongside you. Same goes for our educators. We appreciate everything that you do every day, not really starting this week, but starting this week into the full school year. And finally, if there are students in the room, I think there are a few, I just want you to know that every adult in this room is here because they believe in you and they're committed to supporting you, not just this year, but in the years to come. So get excited and congratulations on a new school year. All right, and the chair will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the board business meeting of June 27th, 2023. So moved. Thank you. Do I hear? Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. And next, I am pleased to introduce our new CEO, Dr. Morgan, to give the first of many CEO reports.
Thank you, Chair Ellicott. Okay, yeah, can you guys hear me? All right. So I'm so excited to bring a few of the reports to you today. A few things you'll notice with some of the things that you see posted in the agenda. Any of the presentations that we're bringing, we want to make sure that you have access to those decks as well, just so that you can follow along with the updates that we're giving to you. And throughout the year when we're giving data reports and different updates, you'll be able to follow along and see those as well. But today I'm excited to share a special recognition, also give an update on where we were for summer learning, also share a little bit about where we've been in terms of just opening up of the school year. This is day 2 for us, for all of our students, but we've also had some schools that have been in session since the beginning of this month, and we'll give you an update on that. And then I'll share with you a preview of what I'm doing. You heard a little bit about my Listen and Learn tour, and I want to give you an update on where I am in terms of my entry plan and also some organizational shifts that I'm considering as we move forward. But without further ado, I'm so excited to start with the special recognition of one of our longtime, excellent, not only CMSD educators and employees within our system, but a phenomenal coach, leader, mentor, and friend of our district, and that is Mr. Ted Ginn Sr. Let's give him a hand. For those who don't know, yeah, he can come on up. For those who do not know, Ted Ginn was inducted into the inaugural class of the National High School Football Hall of Fame. And he was part of this class, and I was so honored to be able to join in the celebration. As a matter of fact, when we were there in Canton, I believe when they asked everybody to stand up who was here in your honor, it was everybody in the auditorium. So if we were not there as a CMSD family and all of the people that you've inspired over your long and successful career, there wouldn't be many people there. So it's an honor worth having, and we're so excited to present this proclamation. So indulge me a bit as I read the proclamation to you, and then we're gonna have you come up. I'll also ask Dr. Trent Mosley to join me on stage, and we'll grab a picture. So this says, It's from the Board of Education of the Cleveland Municipal School District, a proclamation for Coach Ted Ginn Sr. Whereas Ted Ginn Sr. graduated from Glenville High School, where he played linebacker and center for the Glenville Tarbloodles football team, and whereas Ted Ginn Sr. later served as a volunteer assistant coach for the Glenville Tarbloodles football team from 1976 to 1986, was first hired as a substitute security guard for the Cleveland City School District in 1990, and subsequently assumed the duties of head coach of the Glenville Tarbloodles football team in 1997, and as a head coach of the Glenville Tarbloodles boys track and field team in 2002. And whereas Ted Ginn Sr. led the Glenville Tarbloodles boys track and field team to state championships in 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2014, and 2022. And whereas Ted Ginn Sr. led the Glenville Tarbloodles football team to the state playoffs for many years, including state championship game appearances in 2009 and in 2013, and then finally leading the Tarbloodles to the state football championship in 2022. Please join me in recognizing Mr. Ted Ginn Sr. for all his many accomplishments. Let's get on our feet and acknowledge and thank him for his work. All right. Next, I am so pleased to give you a report of where we are. One of the things that has been customary with our board meetings is making sure that we give you an update on where we are with data, but we just finished an excellent summer learning experience, and we want to let you know how that went, and also some things that we're still looking at and learning as we move forward. So I'm so excited to bring our Interim Deputy Chief of Teaching and Learning, Liz Nelson-Creel, to the stage to give us an update on where we are from summer learning, and then also share an exciting update from one of our amazing scholars from Davis. So, Liz.
Good afternoon, board. I am really excited to share some of our updates from our fantastic Summer Learning 2023. And we did a comparison between summer 2022 to summer 2023. So we can see that our enrollment in 2022, we had 6,443 scholars, but our attendance rate was an overall 53.8%. This summer, we had 6,347 students, which is a little bit less, but our attendance rate increased a lot to 65.4% for our scholars coming in the summer. And then what I was really excited about is up until this point, our ESY, and ESY stands for our Extended School Year Services, and those services are for our special education and related services that are provided by the school district. So by law, we have to provide ESY service to our kids per the child's IEP. Up until 2023, we contracted out with the Help Foundation for these services, but this summer, late in the game, probably was around April, when the Help Foundation shared with us that they were no longer able to staff that program, and they were cutting that out. So Jessica Baldwin and her team came together, and we actually created our own extended school year services. And you can see last summer we sent 38 scholars to the HELP program, and this summer we actually had 73 students participate. And when I talked to Patty Schultz, who was over the HELP program, she said that the scholars felt really more comfortable and their families felt more comfortable actually coming back to CMSD knowing that their teachers were going to provide those services. Because in the past, we would let them come into our school, but they would bring in their own staff. This summer, it was staffed by CMSD teachers, and we can see the increase. And then also, We decreased our footprint this summer. We went from 26 pre-K 8 and 10 high schools down to 20 pre-K 8 and 7 high schools. So therefore, we just reduced the footprint, and I think that also contributed to the increase in enrollment. Also, we think for most of our high school students, they're in summer learning for recovering credits. So last summer, we had 1,604 students, and they completed 975 courses. This summer, we have 1,400 students complete 971 courses. And with the decrease in the number of students needing to recover credits is because our high schools are doing a better job of providing credit recovery, and they're actually recovering those courses during the regular school year. Also, with our engaged partners, because we know our summer learning is divided into 3 parts. In the morning, we have Finish with math and reading, and then we have our Enrich, where they're working on their projects. And then in the afternoon, we have our community partners come in to provide programming. So last summer, 3,552 scholars participated in Engage, and this summer we had an increase of 571 students and that participated, and that is really because we are able to have our pre-K and kindergarten students work with our partners. And then what's really exciting is that our music and band program over at John Marshall, that's an afternoon program run by our own teachers. You can see that the increase in the number of scholars actually participating in the John Marshall program also increased. And they had a lot of scholars who actually came back for the second and third time. And then finally, with our summer learning, we also contract and work with Youth Opportunities Unlimited, YOU, and last summer we had 72 summer workers. This summer we were able to place 93 summer workers. Then last summer we had 105 students in the tech pipeline. So the tech pipeline provides high school students with experience in technical and non-technical internships. And kids can enter the tech pipeline at age 14, and they can participate for a total of 6 summers. And just to highlight, this is not all of the tech pipeline opportunities, but we had kids working in cybersecurity here at EPC. We had them being eSport assistant coaches at Cleveland State. We had some scholars working at the CMSD help desk, and then we also had robotics over at the Great Lakes Science Center. So that's just a highlight of some of the summer tech pipeline. And then we go back one more thing. And then we also had a slight increase in our education pipeline, and those are the students who showed, expressed an interest in becoming our future educators, and so they were placed in 4th and 5th grade classrooms. So we went from 3 to 5, so we definitely want to grow our pipeline to becoming educators, and we can see the overall. Finally, we also had students from Davis Aerospace and Maritime go to Ecuador for their experience, and we have actually one of our scholars here today. So we're going to first do the video. It was the highlight of the video, and then I'm going to have Jadicil Anjuar, I hope I pronounced it correctly. She's coming up. She's had prepared a small speech, and then she can answer any questions about her experience being in Ecuador this summer.
Look.
while
looks
we're
like we're
working
having-
on the
yeah.
tech issues, because I do have another video link of it, we'll have the student come up now, because I know she has something prepared and she can answer questions, and then we can watch the video last.
Hello, my name is Yaricel Andujar, and I am a junior at Davis Aerospace and Maritime High School, and Argonaut Student Ambassador. During my time in Argonaut programming, I have gained a lot of technical skills through maritime aviation and engineering that allowed me to participate in FIRST Robotics Initiative at the Great Lakes Science Center, where I had the opportunity to work with 100 other CMSD high school students at 4 different high schools. Together, we learned how to design, build, program, and operate an industrial-sized 120-pound robot. I learned how to use basic tools such as drills, saws, and square tools, and also learned how to program and code a robot using JavaScript. During the competition season, which runs January through April, we build and compete with our robot. Last season, my team, 8222, the Argonauts, won 2nd place in the state of Ohio. We also fundraise our own teams. 100% of all funds are raised from public and private donors. It's an exciting and fun time for all of us, and we are thrilled to get back into action this January. We have so much fun that we wanted to continue after the season, so we found a way. We wanted to take our skills and apply them to the community service project. After weeks of research, cost analysis, we discovered that we could operate a 3D printed prosthetic program. We made prototype after prototype and finally showed off our progress at a local event where a fellow CMSD student named Ernest found our table. He noticed the prosthetic arms and asked if he can try one on, and of course we said yes. He put it on and immediately started using it and picking up the toys that we had on the table. His smile and excitement made us want to continue this work, and he became our first recipient. Then we were introduced to IMA Helps, a nonprofit medical mission who was inspired by our work and asked us for our help in giving a young girl in Ecuador named Samantha a prosthetic arm. We worked with her medical team, the Great Lakes Science Center, my mentor, Tim Hatfield at Argonaut, and IMA Helps to design and build her a prosthetic arm. After 2 versions of her arm, we made a 3rd. IMA Helps invited us down to Ecuador to deliver Samantha her arm and show her all the cool gadgets that it has. It includes a holder for pens, pencils, crayons, and markers, because her dream was to write her name again. We spent 11 days in Ecuador and delivered 2 more hands to children. While we were down there, we measured and examined 12 potential recipients for prosthetic arms and hands. We also helped register and triage over 4,500 people. Today we are continuing our work in prosthetics and are recruiting more students to help us. One of those efforts to recruit more students is to start an all-girls FIRST Robotics team, and an additional team totaling 6 teams for this upcoming season. We are excited to start the new season and to continue changing lives across borders and across CMSD. Thank you for hearing our story.
And since we heard from the scholar, I know that you guys were still trying to tee up the video, but we can just entertain questions either from any of our board members for Liz on just the summer experience. We'll entertain any questions that we have from the board from Liz or from our student from Davis on her wonderful experience, if you guys have any questions. Dr. Thomas.
Thank you. To Ms. Nelson-Creel, what are you learning from each of these summer learning experiences that you take forward into the next year?
One of the main things that where the team is learning around summer learning is really implementing demonstrations of learning. So, one of the cornerstones of summer learning is the demonstration of learning, the projects that they work on. And so this school year, we always want to keep expanding the opportunities for scholars to participate in this demonstration of learning. So what we learned from the previous summer is that we had about 12 schools who actually said they wanted to incorporate some demonstration of learning, and we created an MOU with the teachers union. And so the schools who are participating in demonstration of learning, so they are having additional parent engagements, so therefore they don't have to do the last parent-teacher conference that's in April, because they're going to do several opportunities for families to come up and interact with the school.
For our scholar, our Argonaut ambassador, so you're in your junior year, or are you a rising senior?
Junior year, yes.
Junior year, so 2 more years.
Yes.
And then what are you going to do with yourself?
I'm planning on going to Kent State University and studying aviation to become a pilot.
Fantastic. All right. I will watch for you to be the first woman on Mars.
Also, a question for our scholar. Thank you. That was so cool to hear about. You talked about doing multiple prototypes. How many did you do for that first one? And what did you learn as you kind of built new prototypes over time?
Well, we had about 3 to 5 prototypes for Samantha because we were just starting off. And we learned that, like, seeing how the material works with, people's arms, because we were testing it on some of the students' arms, or like seeing what new gadgets that we can attach onto the prosthetics so they have more mobility or can do more things with the prosthetics.
That's awesome. We're really proud of you, and I'm super impressed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to, first of all, congratulate you for placing at the state with your robotics team. I mean, that's fantastic, and so impressed with the work that you've done for Samantha and the others. It's truly an experiential learning at its height, right? I mean, we're seeing that through you and through the students there. So congratulations to you, and also to everyone on the teachers and staff there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll start to show the video. We'll do a couple of minutes to see this amazing experience. And young scholar, I don't know if we got your name when she came up, if she wanted to, our scholar from Davis, if she wanted to come up and just actually say her name for the record here.
My name is Yaricel Andujar.
All right. Thank you.
Lo que tenemos que hacer en este momento es apretar algunos de los lazos.
During their 10-day trip to Ecuador, Davis Aerospace and Maritime High School 2023 valedictorian Gabriel Leonard and 11th grader Yaricel met Samantha for the first time.
It was nice to finally meet her in person for the first time, since the only times we've been able to meet her was over Zoom. So finally being able to see her in person, give her a hug, it was like, this is a real person that we're helping, and we're able to see what we're doing come to life.
She is the Ecuadorian girl who inspired them to design and make a 3D printed prosthetic arm. With the help of IMA Helps, a medical nonprofit that organizes humanitarian missions to underserved countries, the first arm was delivered last year. During this trip, she is being fitted for her second arm.
Everything that she would say, like, more me understanding what she's saying in Spanish, like word for word, and her feelings, like I can understand it 100%. And like the things she was saying, like, we're able to like make her dream happen. So it's very touching. And it was just amazing meeting her. She's a very nice young lady.
Daniela, also an 11th grader at Davis, couldn't make the trip, but she is the one that convinced her robotics teammates to initially help Samantha, who lost both of her arms in a bus accident. On this trip, they helped not only Samantha, but 6 other children. Daniela, who is from Ecuador, says she is touched her classmates helped her compatriots.
Like, it made me cry because I saw them with little kids and the prosthetics, like making hearts and stuff. It was love. It was like special, like something that came from their heart.
While in Ecuador, John Dar Bradshaw, the Great Lakes Science Center Community Engagement Coordinator and STEM Education Consultant, says the students also assisted volunteer medical staff with IMA Helps see more than 4,000 patients seeking medical and dental care.
They had all of this compassion, they had this empathy, and they really knew their stuff. They really made a difference. And not only did it change the lives of the patients that we saw, it changed the lives of these students as well.
This trip of a lifetime, helping other children, has made all 3 of these students think about ways they can continue to help others.
It was very life-changing. It humbles you very much. It just opens your eyes, and even that, I want to be a pilot, but now it's pushing me a little bit further into the medical field.
But also as a pilot, I think there's a possibility that I could maybe, fly people or doctors down to these countries and be able to give them the transportation that they need to help out these people.
The robotics team, with the help of the Great Lakes Science Center and Argonaut, came home with more than a dozen requests to make prosthetic arms for those in need in Ecuador. Plus, IMA Helps has invited CMSD students to go on another mission next summer.
Man, oh man, we saw so many more people that were in desperate need, and it wasn't like we could tell anybody no. So right now we have 15 solid orders.
I want to continue doing this because I want to keep changing people's lives in the future with them, and going to new countries to meet new people.
Thank you so much for that summer update in Yardacel. That just sounds like a great experience. I believe Gabriel's already off at school, and for Daniela, who is also in her senior year here, just really excited for those scholars. I know we have mom in the house, sister in the house, and then our educator or our leader from Science Center, so thank you. All right, moving along, we're going to talk a little bit about building readiness and what the opening of the school year was, and so I'm so excited to have our Chief of Schools come to the mic, Lisa Farmer-Cole, and I believe will be co-facilitated later with our Interim Chief Talent Officer, Stephen Christian.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Chair Eloquad, Vice Chair Hudnall, and board members. And thank you, Dr. Morgan, for the introduction. So really excited to give an overview of where we stand in terms of building readiness for the 23-24 school year. I've had an opportunity to visit several buildings with Dr. Morgan. Overwhelmingly, we are pleased. We know there are some things that we need to correct. But again, overwhelmingly, just really happy with where we stand. In terms of building level readiness and our facilities, it is important that we meet our goal to ensure that every single school is ready to receive our scholars and their families, and we know we're large. So in order to do this, we have implemented over time a greeter deployment strategy. And our greeters are nothing more than central office staff members who elect to go out or who are recommended to go out to visit our schools, to greet our scholars, but also to ensure that we fix any issues that might impact a successful school opening. So at minimum, there is one greeter that goes out to every single school. Oftentimes we have 2 depending on size. And although we have been utilizing this strategy for many years, we provide greeter training every single year to support our greeters in being successful. We review their expectations. We talk about school visitation dates. We used to only go in the week school started, but found it found it necessary to go out prior to school starting because we wanted to be proactive. So for this year, our school greeters started going out Wednesday, August the 16th, and we do the same for our year-round schools and our extended year schools, but just this just highlights our traditional schools that started this past Monday. So they went out last week, but our greeters are also in the schools now every single day to mitigate any issues. When we work with our greeters, now you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. When we work with our greeters, we walk them through what we call a greeter hub, which is housed in Smartsheet. And these links are not live. These are actual just screenshots, but what I can do is send out some of the links for you all to peruse. On the landing page for the Greeter Hub is the actual greeter visitation form that every greeter fills out when they visit a school. In addition to the greeter visitation form, there is a parent concern form, so if there are any concerns that greeters find out from parents, we can share that with principals, we can share that with network support leaders, and any central office staff. There is also a list of resources underneath the greeter form that greeters can share with parents, with school staff, and anyone else that needs support on that day. When they click on the greeter form, this is a screenshot of the reporting form that they submit every day. They're able to identify, just by clicking yes or no, if buildings are clean, if the marquee is updated or not. That information is then populated into the Smartsheet to your right, the screenshot to your right, and we're able to see if the schools are ready. I know it's small for the audience, but because the board members have the presentation in front of them, I believe it's the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine that's up in front of you now. If you look, I believe it's on line 15. Sharon Stevens is the greeter, and you can see that on August the 2nd, when she went in prior to school starting, she was able to note that students didn't have their devices. But when she went back on August the 7th, the devices had been delivered that previous Friday. So we are able to, in real time, fix issues for schools because we have a person dedicated to every single school in our system. In terms of leader readiness, I'm really excited to report that of the 11 vacancies we have for our principal leaders, we were able to fulfill all of them prior to the August School Leadership Opening Institute that we had, so that each new leader could participate in that. 11 of the 11 this year were filled internally, which we are very proud of also. 7 of the 11 were assistant principal promotions, which speaks to growing our own, which is a goal of ours each and every year. And we attribute being able to promote our assistant principals to including them in our school leadership institutes monthly, to the work that our network support leaders are doing, and to the work that our assistant principal pipeline has done with many of our burgeoning leaders. In regards to new principal support, all 11 of those principals will have, of course, their support from their network support leaders, but also principal mentors who have been identified based on a track record of success. Also, in terms of leader readiness this summer, our network support leaders have been very consistent in the way they have supported school leaders across each and every network. We've identified areas of focus that they have worked with principals on to ensure a successful opening, one being the implementation of fidelity of their academic achievement plans. We also have a focus on teacher-based teams, which is a systematic way in which teachers come around data to make instructional decisions. And because we've had consecutive professional development days at the beginning of the year, I asked the network support leaders to go out and to look at the agendas for the professional development days that principals would have been leading. In August, on the 3rd and the 4th, we opened with our School Leader Institute. We open each year with a 2-day institute where we set the conditions for a successful year. This year we had a focused effort on team building because we wanted our principals to then take that back to their schools, do the same with staff, and do the same with their students. In that top picture, if you could just go back to that slide, in the top picture you see one of the exercises that we took our principals through, and it was really exciting when Dr. Morgan and I went to the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine. We saw Principal Perez actually replicating this with her students, which was really exciting because we were able to see our intent come into play. We take our school leaders through a series of leadership and learning strands connected to instructional leadership, distributive leadership, creating inclusive learning environments, and utilizing the operational standards that are given to them by the different divisions and departments within the system. After every School Leadership Institute, we institute a survey so we can see if we're meeting the needs of our leaders, and the board members can look at the survey questions to see that many of our leaders are highly satisfied or satisfied not only with the overall institute but with some of the sessions that we offered. In terms of student readiness, we want to ensure that every scholar prior to coming to school has a schedule. So when they walk in the door on day one, they know where they are going, they know the classes that they are going to take, they receive curricular resources, both hard copy and electronic, as well as their supplies. In alignment with our equity and inclusion work, we want to ensure that all students have equitable access to high quality curriculum, and of course our one-to-one strategy and any supplies or resources that they might need. At this time, I'm going to call up my colleague, Chief Stephen Christian, to talk about our readiness in terms of staffing.
Thank you, Chief Farmer Cole. Good evening, Chair Ellicott, Vice Chair Hudnall, members of the board, CEO Morgan. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening, and as you can tell from the heading on our presentation, we're enthusiastic about where we are from a staffing readiness standpoint, and so we are excited to share these updates with you this evening. As Chief Farmer Cole noted, you're going to see a blend of both an aggressive talent-seeking strategy as well as a talent development strategy as we talk about our updates this evening. From a staffing standpoint, we have just over 2,900 teachers in the district, and we're pleased that at this point, we have 120 teaching vacancies that we are actively continuing to try to fill. But compared to where we were last year, we had 175 at the same time. And that reduction of 55 teacher vacancies is all the more impressive in the context of our having 193 teacher separations this last year, which is the highest we've had in the prior 4 years. For context, that 193 is roughly 7% of our teacher population, so that is not alarming from a turnover standpoint. A lot of our urban peers report 12 to 14%, but to have a reduction of 55 vacancies with that context, we're so thrilled and pleased with the partnerships we have with the leadership of Laura Mulvaney, Heather Grant, Tiana Ferguson, and our team. They've done a phenomenal job addressing a big need for us. In addition to this, as part of that talent development strategy, a good number of those vacancies that were closed were a result of alternative pathways, grow your own programs, and promotions within our district. You'll see more about that in the coming slide. One of the really important components of this that we have realized is that through those models, we have had over 71% of our hired teachers who self-identify as Black, Hispanic, or Asian. Of our new hires, that 71% came through those programs. So bringing greater diversity to our classrooms has also come through investing in our own educators and giving them pathways to becoming instructional leaders. In the spirit of leadership development, we've been very pleased that we have had 7 assistant principals promoted into principalship this year. And we recently just completed our first cohort of our assistant principal preparation program, where 6 of our participants were hired into assistant principal roles, setting the stage for that next step to principalship. Compared again to last year, we started the school year with 125 security officer vacancies. This year, we're pleased to be entering the school year with 139 staff. A lot of that increase is attributable to hire of part-time staff, and so we're actively working with Chief Dodson and our safety and security team on helping those part-time staff come through our security academy so that they can be OPATA certified, ready to become full-time employees, and really continue to assist our scholars in having a safe and welcoming environment each day at their school. In addition to our entries, when our students come in and are greeted in the front office, we had 14 vacancies at the start of last year. We are now at 3. We're still navigating up 1, down 1 as we go through the opening part of the year. But we are continuing to work on making sure that our front offices are fully staffed and supported. As we transition to our next slide, over 100 student teachers are placed and ready to go in our schools for this year. We had 110 last year, and we'll be right around that same number. You'll see that on the left, the colleges and universities that are represented from the hires that we had for this current school year. And on the right, you'll know that we hired 26 of our student teachers last year, which doesn't include the 14 Cleveland teaching fellows who were also part of that cohort in the prior year. So 40 total hires straight out of college through those student teaching experiences. We also promoted 22 substitute teachers, had 10 employees come back to employment with us. Our partners with Teach for America have been phenomenal, and they helped us fill 9 hard-to-fill positions this year, and we're extremely grateful for their work and their continuing professional development of those staff. We did have 8 new teachers come to us through alternative programs. 4 paraprofessionals were promoted into teaching positions, and I'm going to skip down just a bit to another 2 that came through our Para-to-Teacher track program. We had 3 career changers. We also had 2 DREAM program participants, which is an opportunity for a number of our bilingual instructional aides to go through and have loan forgiveness for their education when they serve 5 years in a Title I school. And then in addition to that, we've been working with Chelsea Cohn and our supplemental license partnership, Cleveland State, and overall, we bring this presentation to you in a spirit of gratitude for both everything our principals have done to be aggressive in hiring practices this year to meet needs, also all of our managers, Chief Dotson, Aaron Creel in operations, Eric Taylor in transportation, Bob Gorman in nutrition services. Everyone's done such a phenomenal job really taking to heart the need that we have to support our schools and making sure that we have every spot filled that we can. So at this time, Chief Armor Cole and I would like to be available for any questions you might have, and thank you for your time.
So wonderful news, excellent, well done. You worked hard over the summer, that's terrific, thank you. What are our deficiencies? I noticed a whole lot of retirements in the safety forces. So yes, we're up in the number, but are we going to be hearing about not enough safety and security officers?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Security officers have continued to be a focus for us over the last 12 to 18 months. Chief Dotson and our team are working very closely to make sure that wherever we have an opportunity to accelerate either program offerings, to make sure that we follow up with part-time employees and ensure that they're completing the program, we've been doing that. It is very much a need. It's a lot of seat hours. I believe it's 128 if I'm not mistaken. And so it's a big commitment, and it takes a lot of support. It takes a team to bring everyone through the program. But we've had 30 that have successfully completed the program to date, and we're committed to continuing to supporting and coaching those forward.
Stephen, you're going to go into politics because you evaded the question. What are the number of vacancies that we have?
Oh, my apologies.
No.
And thank you for the compliment. We have 57 vacancies currently. We are presently 6 drivers fewer than we were at this time last year. All in all, I would need to refer to Eric for his professional opinion on it, but I think we're stable. We're about where we were last year.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both. I think also to add to that, I believe we do have, every building has a safety and security officer currently in our building. Is that correct, Mr. Christian? That there's at least a full-time or a part-time officer in there. So we're working through those, but that's something to add as well. Okay, I'm able to round up this report with just giving you some updates on just where we are in terms of organizational shifts. So most of this you have heard from me, but I want to make sure that we give this information to you. Last week, I had the opportunity to launch, either last week or the week before, the Listen and Learn Tour. So I've been out and about, been in schools. We've also had a few community gatherings already, and I'm just so excited about doing those listening tours. People ask me often, what are my top priorities? And my top priority is to make sure I am out listening and learning and connecting with the community. There's a lot of work, and you're going to hear some of the things that we have to do as a system. And there's a lot of progress to build on, but it is a top priority of mine to make sure this next phase of the work is reflective of our community, our scholars, and the parents of our scholars within our district. So that's a top priority of mine, and the only way we could do that is actually listening. So if you want to know more about the Listen and Learn Tour, we do have a website. It's Cleveland Metro schools.org/listen and learn. You can see where I'm at. I'm doing coffee chats. I love coffee. Probably drink it way too much. But I'm doing coffee chats to connect with the community. Also, a couple of town halls that will be taking place in September. And then also visiting schools and getting out into the community. This is a very high-level overview of the entry plan that will take place over the course of this year. And so one of the things that I'm looking to do on the website for my landing page is not only share with you what's happening with the Listen and Learn Tour, share some updates with it, share some of the feedback we've gathered, but we're also in the process of collecting feedback at all of those sessions. I think to date we have, and this is not including the one we just did with PCIAs at the zoo yesterday, so before that we had almost 170 pieces of feedback collected, over 70 engagements for the 3 that we did, and this is not including the one we just did yesterday at the zoo. And thanks to the leadership of Dr. Trent Mosley and several on our communications team, we have a new feedback tool that we're using called Let's Talk that allows us right in real time to get feedback from our constituents and review it. So if you come out to our Listen and Learn tours, you can you can learn all about Let's Talk and give that feedback directly. But I'm in phase 1 of that listening phase, and as we continue these, I'll move into phase 2, where we start to get some advisory groups together to help me look at some of the trends that we've seen before entering into phase 3. Towards the end of this school year, heading into the next school year, where we're ready to lead with a plan. Of course, I'm still in the phases of listen and learn, but I want to let you know, based on some of the data I've already reviewed and also things I've been hearing directly from our staff and also from our constituents, I want to share some highlights and some great work that the district has been doing. And it's just great to see the progress. As many of you guys know, I was in the district before, and it's great to see the progress the district has made over that time. And I'm grateful for the leadership of this board and so many others that have made progress in this. A few of those strengths to build on is upper level ELA growth and upper level math growth. When I say upper level, those are some of our upper grades, 4 through 8, not high school, but in 4 through 8. And this is growth, not mastery, not proficiency, but growth. We have seen some strengths there in terms of some growth. I know that our curriculum team has put in some efforts into making sure we're looking at the curriculum that we're working on, and then also putting some efforts, I know, into some intervention programs this past year, and that's led to some growth. Also, amazing partnerships. CMSD is just has so many amazing partners, from Pre-for-CLE, from our wraparound services to Say Yes. These are all different add-ons that it's a benefit to our system. We already saw, even just from hearing from our student from Davis, that we have that partnership with the Science Center, that we're able to provide these things for our students. So those are strengths to build on. So areas of opportunity where we need to go. Of course, continued low performance amid or after the COVID-19 pandemic. We see large gaps in both growth and mastery between our white students and our students of color. So it's going to be a top priority now that we have an equity and culture department. I'll be talking a little bit about that. That we're not only looking at our data like lumped together, I want to know specifically, how are our children doing? How are our children of color doing? How are students doing on certain parts of the city? How are they doing in different schools by grade level? All of this matters, all of our kids matter, but if we're not looking at the data that way, we're going to be losing different groups. And so it's really important that we look at our data in that way, and that's top of mind for me. And then also our low performance in ELA and early literacy. Post-secondary readiness, not only on track to graduation rates, but our graduation rates. Drops in enrollment, engagement, these were things that we've been seeing. And then of course, culture and climate issues. We talked about safety and security a little bit. That's been an issue and a top priority of the district. We want to continue to explore that, but not only from the student standpoint, but also from our educators, and our educators being healthy and well. 3 C's that I've talked about that it's really important for me, that we have clarity of our mission, where we're going, what we're about. We're all adults here, and I know we have scholars here, but the people that work in the district, we're all adults. And so we have to make sure our adults are taken care of, but it's in service of our kids. And so whenever I talk to our team about being clear about who we have to be clear on our kids and our focus and our center. So that's clear on that. The next is coherence, making sure that our departments are aligned, that we're aligned to goals, that we're clear of where we're going, so that we're not just doing a bunch of programs, but we're actually strategic in the bets that we're making, that we're strategic in the programs that we're doing, and we can actually show where we are making progress or not making progress. And then finally, the instructional core, which this is the framework that we've been talking to the team around. It's the PELP framework, and that instructional core is what is happening with the teacher, the content that the teacher is doing, that high quality curriculum, and the student. Everything we do as a system, the work we do as leaders, the budget we have, the strategies, everything is surrounded around this instructional core. So if we are not focused on what's happening in the classroom, if we're not focused on what's happening in the schools, we're not in business. And so I'm already giving you a preview. I preview this for my team as we share it. The question I'll always ask is, how does this impact student achievement? How does this impact that instructional core? And so just make sure as we're thinking about the work we're doing and the work we're bringing, that we're bringing it from the lens of what's happening with the instructional core and all of our students, no matter where they are in the city. And then finally, a couple of updates on some team updates I have. So I announced the first week of being on the job, some structural changes that we have in terms of my executive leadership team. We're in the process of searching for some positions, so that is underway, and I'll be able to share some updates as we have for those. But so excited that we have some amazing leaders that are already within our system that are moving into new roles. Karen Thompson, that many of you guys know, is our new Senior Chief of District Operations. She's under the weather tonight, has been working so hard, but she's not able to be with us tonight. So excited to have Dr. Trent Mosley move into the role of Senior Chief of Equity and Culture, looking at the culture of our staff, our students, school culture, but then also community culture. So really excited to have that focus on equity and that deep lens there. And then also Kevin Stockdale right over here to my right, who is our Chief Financial Officer. So more to come as we do the search for some of these other positions. Finally, I will end with a quote I've been telling our team. The work we do is hard, it's heart work. It's heart because we believe in it from our mission, but it's also incredibly hard. And so because it is really hard, a lot of times it can get discouraging, but just know, it always seems impossible until it's done, and this is one of my favorites from Nelson Mandela. And so some of these mantras I'll continue to lean on as we do our work together, and looking forward to doing the listening and learning tours. I'll take questions.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, as you do your searches, I just want to ask you to consider, would you include the internal auditor in your search?
Yes, yeah, we're, so these are the searches for my direct reports. It does not mean there are not other searches that are underway. So that one is definitely on our radar and one that we're working on, very important.
Dr. Thomas, I believe the audit committee has a recommendation for that role, and we can come back to it. Mm-hmm. Any other questions from the board? All right, excellent report, excellent first report. Thank you, Dr. Morgan. So before we shift over to our public comment section, I would like to remind the community that our sign-up process for public comment has changed. In the past, we've done just a paper-only form here at the meeting. We are making a shift to an online form over the next couple of months. So the form is currently available. Many of you have availed yourselves of it at clevelandmetroschools.org/board. And starting in October 24th is when we will make the full transition to only using the online form for public comment in order to allow us to just be more organized, streamline the way that we handle public comment, and plan for the time that we'll spend doing public comment. But for now, until then, both the online form and the paper form will be available until October 24th so that community members have time to transition. Mr. Bertzloff is here. You can speak to him with any questions that you have after the meeting, and we'll continue to make sure that there is availability to ask questions around that. All right, and now we will move into our public participation period for a period of no longer than 40 minutes. During this segment of the business meeting, we will hear all public comment on either agenda or non-agenda items. This public participation period will be for persons to address the board for up to 3 minutes each. I will be holding folks to time, and I have a gavel. If you wish to address the board, you should have already filled out the request to speak form. That's the sound that you'll hear at the end of your 3-minute thank you. And the intent behind that is to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity to comment and that we don't give some folks more time than others, right? So if you do wish to address the board, you should have already filled out the request to speak form that was available at the table in the back of the room or online and submitted it prior to now. If anyone wishing to address the board has any written material that they would like to submit to the board, please give it to Mr. Bertzloff and he will distribute the material to the board. While the board welcomes the opportunity to hear from members of the community at this meeting, there is of course an expectation that persons addressing the board will show respect for our audience, which includes young people, and conduct themselves in a courteous and professional manner as befits a public meeting taking place in an educational institution. I also want to remind everyone, again, that we will limit each speaker to 3 minutes, and please ask that you request this time. Under the board policy on public participation, which we have now included on the back of the request to speak form that is available, speakers who violate the terms of the policy may forfeit their privilege to address the board at subsequent public meetings. I also want to point out that we're going to continue to post our responses online ahead of the next meeting of the board. All right. So first, I'd like to call up Mr. Don Freeman. Yeah. And after Mr. Freeman, we'll hear from Councilwoman Jenny Spencer.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Dr. Morgan, my name is Don Freeman, and I look forward to consistently interacting with you relative to providing the best possible education to the students of the Cleveland Public School District. So welcome to, obviously, Cleveland and our students.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Councilwoman Spencer.
Good evening. I'm Jenny Spencer, and I represent Ward 15 on Cleveland City Council. Greetings, CEO Morgan, and greetings to the board. Ward 15 includes the Cadell neighborhood, which is the focus of my comments tonight. Ward 15 is also in a very unusual position in that 4 of the 5 Segment 8 facilities are within my ward. Clark, Joseph M. Gallagher, Marion C. Seltzer, and the demolition of the Watterson Lake School building. So in this eighth and final segment of CMSD's, the eighth and final segment of your construction program is culminating in Ward 15. It's an extremely high volume of activity. You will be hearing numerous Ward 15 voices this evening coming forward with concerns about the Seltzer new construction project. I wanted to share three things that are true. First, the decision to build a new Seltzer and conduct what is called a land swap with the City of Cleveland, the decision was made about a decade ago, and it was reaffirmed by this Board of Education. Second, CMSD did go through a comprehensive community engagement process for Seltzer. That said, some of that rolled out during the pandemic when resident engagement was at an all-time low. Ultimately, the current proposed Seltzer design was vetted and did receive final approval by the Cleveland City Landmarks Commission in February 2023. Third, we are learning through this experience in an extraordinarily painful way for the community that the City of Cleveland's tree preservation ordinance falls short. The city forester did not review plans for Seltzer until designs were final, providing little chance to preserve trees that the designers themselves did not seek to preserve. I'm a member of the City of Cleveland's Urban Forestry Commission and will be seeking to rectify this failure in our city's code. Finally, we as a community and as leaders must begin to think about trees in a very, very different way. For too long, we have presumed that mature trees can simply be replaced by planting new trees. This is not the case. Not only do mature trees have documented benefit for the learning environment, but like many institutions, CMSD has not been able to provide appropriate care and stewardship for young trees that it plants. Many new trees planted in Ward 15 will not live for 20 years, let alone the 150 plus years of the mature trees at the Seltzer location. I would like to work with CMSD leadership on not only tree planting for the Seltzer site, but to revisit all trees planted in Ward 15 through the construction program. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Board members, are there any questions? Go ahead, Dr. Tom. Oh, go ahead. Ms. Hudnall?
Thank you, Councilmember Spencer, and thank you for being here. I think we all share a concern for the physical and built environment for not just schools in your ward, but across our entire district. I do appreciate your acknowledgement of the decade-long process that has brought this conversation to today. So I wanted to say thank you. Your last statement was about trees in your ward, and I appreciate that you are representing constituents in your ward. But with your service in your previous role, and then also your service on council today, also representing council on the Urban Forestry Commission, do you have any comments about trees across the entire city? Are you working with your colleagues in any way to address diseased trees or anything like that that we can be aware of with all of your colleagues across council? Thank you.
Yes, I mean, council reconstituted the Urban Forestry Commission. It had fallen dormant, and so it is a new entity setting up its work plan, and I think funding is always going to be a major challenge for the city budget, and there's some exciting funding opportunities that have been applied for through the Inflation Reduction Act, so hoping to bring larger scale dollars to the city. So the answer is yes, but I would really like to focus on what I'm hoping to accomplish working with you all, with your leadership, which is the CMSD site-specific trees that I think we can do better, and I think working together we can do better to make sure that those are legacy trees for the scholars, the educators, and the whole community. And I would love to offer some specific suggestions after the board meeting later this week or in the near future.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas?
Thank you. Councilwoman, thanks so much. I appreciate it. I'm a little curious. Why did the arborist not get to see the plans until after Landmarks had approved?
The city has a tree preservation ordinance that was created in 2018, but the sequencing, the ordinance does not stipulate with enough clarity when the forester needs to enter the process. So I think you'll be hearing from other commenters tonight that trees were raised as a concern, as a community concern, both in community meetings and in design review by the Landmarks Commission. But the actual formality of the urban forester being able to comment on the tree plan did not happen until you all had completed your construction drawings. So woefully late, you've completed very expensive drawings. And I think a point that is so critical for all of us, and so to Ms. Hudnall's comment, to Cleveland City Council, city leadership, you all, we keep saying, oh, we can take down these trees, we'll just plant new trees. We as a society do not provide appropriate stewardship for new trees. They don't survive, they don't thrive, and I think that we can really accomplish some important metrics in the near term by working on that together.
So just to that point, I attended all the community meetings for Marion Seltzer, and I do recall the comments from the community about saving the trees, and I truly thought that at the time we had addressed it. But let's go back to this arborist. In the ordinance, does the lack of an arborist review could it impede the issuance of a building permit for the new construction?
It could.
It could. Okay. That's a very important point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mrs. Link.
Thank you. And I live nearby, so I'm familiar with the property. And I guess when we're talking about the sort of fast forward, and not necessarily about this site, but with your new committee, are there people that do help take care of new trees? Like, this is just a what if. What if the district said, not even there, we have like these 10 trees, like I know by Garrett Morgan, by my house, some of them have died. I think they were transplants. Like, do you have guidance, or do you have like helpers? I know you can adopt a tree kind of situation. I'm just wondering what else is out there to help those of us that want to help trees.
I think I've learned that in terms of institutional impact, it is a budgetary matter. You have to value and pay experienced professionals like arborists to care for trees. There can be community-led tree care, but to provide the necessary steps to really help trees establish and ensure that they will have their intended environmental and community and health and all the public benefits we derive from trees, you do need trained professionals.
And that's great. And does this also happen like with the city of Cleveland and our parks? Because we've put in a lot of trees, just in general. Like I understand the focus on the schools, but I think we have to focus on all of Cleveland. And of course, our job here is to support the 36,000 children. So that's our focus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And that's all, thank you. As a point of clarification for everybody, though the board typically does not participate in public comment, we have made a shift where similar to when we have staff who are experts come up and speak before us, when we have public officials who are also experts or involved in areas that we're addressing, we may ask questions to gain clarity as we move forward in our decision making. So thank you, Councilwoman, very much. And next we'll have Ms. Coles, followed by Andrew Coused.
Congratulations to all of you new people. I'm Elizabeth Coles, and I'm a very old person, 40 plus years. And I'm really concerned about your new speaking policy, because technically it's not a policy, because having gone through the court, in order to be a policy, remember I've told you guys I only want to advise you because that's the role DSEG told us to do. If you have a policy, you have to write it, put it in the board agenda, allow public comments on the policy and then have a board vote on the policy. And you will notice if you turn your document over that it says amended, reviewed, revised. If you have not done the full process, you tell me that I have to go online to do this. When did the board vote that? I don't have a problem with it, you know what I'm saying? But I'm saying it's process and procedure. And I don't want you to get in the habit as a new board of saying, this is board policy, and I'm paying you $800 a month for the right for you to educate a child, and you're going to tell me I have no input in that education. One last thing. Let's talk about board communication from desegregation. When we began with desegregation, we began with the ability to not only have a simple statement, but to interact on agenda items. So we have been reduced from 2, 3, 4 inputs down to 1. Number 2, we had the right to interact with the board in committee, but you do not have any committees. As chairperson of the DCC, I had the mic to myself as number 1 person on the agenda without a time limit. The chairperson, the president of the PTA, had the right to interact without a time limit. You had a student council person sitting on the board. So if it is your desire to improve communication, more, not less. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coles. Next, Andrew Kused.
Hi, thank you so much for having us, CMSD professionals. I'm speaking today as a South Euclid resident and a supporter of the Friends of Cadell Park. I'd just like to reference some of the STEM science that informs my support for the mature trees that live on Cadell Commons, and display my sign that says Forest Defenders Protect all life. So we'd like to shout out to the birds and bats and native wildlife, including people of all ages. In 2016, the Scientific American reported that city parks may mend the mind and that green spaces boost cognitive development of school children and reduce the health effects of inequality for people of all ages. So exposure to natural settings has been linked to a vast array of human health benefits, from reduced rates of depression and increased immune system function. 2 studies have found that evidence suggesting that urban green spaces, parks, and gardens improve cognitive development and buffer against ill health effects that affect the urban core. In research reported by the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences in the United States, investigators in Spain and Norway and the US explored the cognitive development of 2,593 children between the ages of 7 and 10 from 36 primary schools in Barcelona, and at regular intervals they tracked changes in memory and attentiveness using cognitive tests, and they used the high-resolution satellite data to assess the children's proximity to green space at home and school and during their commutes. After factoring out socioeconomic status and other potential co-founders, they determined that children who are closer to parkland had better memory development and less inattentiveness than other children. So I'd just like to drive these important STEM science facts home that this is bona fide and well studied, and our urban tree canopy prevents the heat islands, the urban heat islands that we want to avoid as we adapt to climate crisis. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to consider these comments.
Thank you, Mr. Husted. Next, we'll have Mr. Gene Tracy, followed by Nikki Hudson.
My designated speaker. Good evening, Dr. Morgan and Lieutenant Ellicott. I am hoping with new leaders will come a stop to harming the children. You see, back in the 90s, football demanded
Mrs. Ellicott, can I continue for Mr. Tracy?
Yes, sure. Could
Thank
you
you.
state your name for the record?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Miss.
Would you state your name for the record?
My name, Mrs. Ellicott, is Errol Savage.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You see, back in the 90s, football demanded a $500 million stadium be built not by the owner, but by the taxpayers, threatening, if not, then football would leave the city. Our misguided leaders put it to a vote, hyped it, and passed it. To make it worse, it was fully tax abated for life. What they kept secret was that the greedy owner wanted the taxpayers to foot the bill for all maintenance, repairs, and improvements. By design, they kept this secret until after the election. To get the funds needed, they created Ordinance 1025-95-A, the 8% parking, entertainment, and vehicle leasing tax, a lucrative tax generating $26 million in 1996 and over $33 million in 2020. A city council who cared about the children refused to pass the ordinance unless the children were held harmless for the lifetime tax abatement. A figure of $2 million per year was agreed upon and the ordinance passed. In 1996, the children received $2 million, and each year after that until 2009, $2 million each year. This action sets a precedent of $2 million per year, holding the children harmless. In 2009, the stadium ran a $4 million deficit. In secret, Mayor Jackson conspired with CMSD and took $1 million from the children. This theft was approved by the board, and the children were harmed. At a budget meeting late in 2010, I discovered what had been covertly done. Since that time, I have asked the questions at every board meeting to no avail. I have questions which require written answers as to what I have presented true. Did the children receive a $2 million payment from the city to hold the children harmless for the lifetime tax abatement for the stadium each year from 1996 until 2008? If yes, doesn't that establish a precedent for the $2 million per year payment to hold the children harmless? Is the stadium still receiving its lifetime abatement? If yes, then so should the children. These funds were directly used for extracurricular programs. To make this more disgusting, early schools were denied funding for latchkey programs, forcing parents to move their children into late closing charters. The reason? Lack of funds. These children and their parents were harmed. A full investigation into the decline in enrollment must be held. How does a district go from 72,000 students to 36,000 students in a few years without help? Will you work to restore the promised $1 million or continue to harm the children in favor of football?
Thank you, Mr. Savage.
Thank you, Mrs. Ellicott.
Thank you, Mr. Tracy. Nikki Hudson. Oh. I'm sorry, what? Mr. Tracy, I am going to hold us to time. I do appreciate that you gave us a full copy of your comments, and I assure you we will read them. I already have. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nikki Hudson. I live on the west side of Cleveland in the Cadell neighborhood, and I'm here on behalf of the Friends of Cadell Commons Park group. As you heard from Councilmember Spencer, part of this park is slated to be the site of the new Marion Seltzer Elementary School. This park was given to the city over 100 years ago by Mr. Frank Cadell for the specific purpose of being a park forever. In addition to the travesty of losing 44% of Cadell's only park for this new school building, the construction of the building itself requires the destruction of 40 trees, several of which are very healthy, mature legacy trees that would be devastating to lose, not just for the park, but for the entire neighborhood, which already suffers from inadequate tree canopy coverage, less than the city's average and far less than other West Side neighborhoods. I'm here today to speak to you, the decision makers. We've had meetings with architects, with your representatives, but not you, the ones who actually make the decision. It's been said that we are late coming to this issue, but the reality is we were not made aware of what exactly was going to happen to the park, that 44% of it was being traded away for a school site a mile down the road that will ultimately be offered to developers. This is an unconscionable loss. The parkland, the green space, the trees, the people of Cadell deserve a park. The people of Cleveland deserve a mature, healthy tree canopy. And these things, schools and trees, should exist together. As Councilmember Spencer said, replacing an enormous, healthy, bald cypress tree with a canopy over 100 feet wide with a tiny little tree that won't survive perhaps the first 5 years of its life is unconscionable, and we will continue to pay for it in the form of poor air quality in the city, as we've all gotten a taste of this summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Robert Carrillo here next? Robert Carrillo? Okay. Robert Carrillo? Great, thank you. And you'll be followed by Marie Davis.
Hi, thank you very much for allowing me to be here tonight. I got here a little late, so I was surprised that my comments actually got submitted. I want to reflect what Nikki says about the trees. Nobody opposed a good school in this group, but you know, we talk about the slogans in this city like defend the land, and the first thing they do is they trash it by removing the best of what we have left in the tree canopy. As the other gentleman said, communities that preserve larger, healthy trees, Arbor Day Foundation has several studies that show this. They have lower health care costs, the people are healthier, the heating and cooling costs are lower, the people are more grounded. and more peaceful. And this is what we need in the community these days, especially with all the noise. If you don't want wildlife taking up refuge in your spouting, why are you cutting down all the trees? If you want it to be quieter, why are we cutting down the healthy trees? If you plant that tree based on several examples around the city, a couple are like the healthcare line, the Shoreway. They don't get taken care of like they should to get off to a good start. And I would be willing to bet everything I have that in 2 years or less, they'll be all dead. So we've taken away these beautiful self-sustaining mature trees that aren't doing anything except doing everything beneficial for the community and replacing it with that. Now, a wise plan, a very good plan, Frank Lloyd Wright, you know, if he were to design this whole thing, the first thing he'd want to do is integrate those trees into the development somehow to enhance it, to make it cutting edge. So Cleveland can, you know, be a showcase and an example, not just the typical, this is what they do to develop sprawl plazas like Walmart. They just rip it all down and replant it. Now, if you go down south, even in developments like that, they try to preserve all their trees, the old mature trees, and incorporate those in with the development. And you can't say that it's the residents' fault because it's too late, et cetera, et cetera. Look, at the end of the day, the first thing that should have been considered before this even started was those trees, that park, or what that green space meant to the community, what it actually, how it impacts them, how they use it. And instead of telling them what they're going to get, why don't you listen to what they actually want and find the happy medium? So they've been sitting here listening to these meetings again and again, and it really hasn't changed much. So we go from all this nice green space with the green trees to mostly rooftops that really aren't going to provide anything. Now, the best classroom are trees. We could learn a lot from the trees, and that's another story. But this could enhance the whole project, and the first thing should be to include it. And it's not the residents' fault when whoever was responsible for this should have, out of just consideration, should have done that from the get-go. So that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you. Marie Davis, followed by Reverend Dean Van Farrow. Marie Davis. Okay. Reverend Dean Van Farrow.
Thank you very much for hearing our comments tonight. I also want to speak on behalf of the 40 mature trees at the Marion Seltzer site. Some of the things that I was planning on saying have already been said, so I don't want to repeat those. But a couple things. Councilwoman Spencer talked about the care of the new trees that have already been planted as part of your building plans. Let me give you some statistics from the Waverly School and the Max Hayes School, which are in my ward, which is Detroit Shoreway. A Sherwick tree steward, which is a trained tree steward, did a walk around the Waverly and Max Hayes schools. Of the 39 new trees planted around Waverly, 7 appear dead, 6 are dying, and 6 are very stressed. Of the 44 at Max Hayes, only 5 are in fair condition, while 36 are in poor health. So when we look at this reality of the lack of care of the trees, and then the Marion Seltzer site, the getting rid of legacy trees, there seems to be a culture of not valuing the environment for the sake of our children. So 2 things in regards to that. One is their health. We are the nation's #2 asthma capital. My own wife and son suffer from asthma. Cleveland now has double the amount of high heat advisory days than just 40 years ago. And we all know about the wildfire smoke coming from Canada, which is affecting the allergies of our kids as well. So these legacy trees, as well as general tree care, is very important for the health of our children. And so I want to conclude with a moral vision as a pastor for CMSD. Your first school was Central, which was the first free public high school west of the Alleghenies. Its most famous graduate probably was John D. Rockefeller. who some have dubbed the father of human-induced climate change because of Standard Oil, which desecrated the ecosystems where their wells were. Let our district seek to reverse that legacy and instead produce graduates who are environmental champions in a warming world, starting at Marion Seltzer, starting at these places where you're planting new trees. So that is my moral call to us all, to raise up environmental champions among the youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Kat R. Kenny, followed by Gloria Still. Kat Kenny. Gloria Still. All right, Paula First. Paula First. Therese Poerentz. Anne Armstrong. Kathy Kenny. Diana Setti.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, my name is Diana Setti. I serve on the Ward 15 Tree Committee and have worked as a certified arborist throughout Cleveland and currently work as the horticultural therapist at UH Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. I also live in Ward 15 and have a child in CMSD schools. I'm not here to speak to how redesigning the current Marion Seltzer New School Plan will ultimately save you far more than the $1 million it will take to redesign it, but I could. You only need to briefly consider and do the math for the ecosystem services that large trees and green space provide through stormwater management, reduced flooding and water pollution, reduced energy costs, streetscapes life extension from shade, urban heat island mitigation and high heat-related illness reduction, the reduction of childhood obesity, improved air quality and reduction in asthma rates causing fewer hospital visits, CO2 reduction as we face a global climate emergency, beneficial wildlife habitat as we face global biodiversity loss, and increased property values, aka increase in tax dollars to fund schools. What I want to highlight now is that the Marion Seltzer School Plan is an opportunity for the CMSD board, a new CMSD CEO, welcome, Mr. Warren, and the Vice President of Climate Mayors, aka Mayor Bibb, to stop business as usual, to listen to the community and put their money where their mouth is. Facing Cleveland's significant gun violence traumatizing our youth, CMSD is working to improve safety at schools. The good news is that according to a study through the Nature Conservancy, buildings that have access to nature have 48% fewer property crimes and 56% fewer violent crimes associated. Do you want to imagine what will happen to this community if you bulldoze almost half the green space and cut down 40 mature, healthy trees with some over 200 years old? It would be a traumatizing act of violence. In a 2016 study by Children in Nature Network, nature is shown to provide social, emotional learning and well-being, improving relationship and self-regulation skills, reducing stress and anger, and supporting youth coping with or recovering from adverse childhood experiences and trauma. Studies have also been found that an increased amount of vegetation in common spaces is related to an increased sense of neighborhood safety. The more greenery, the more social activity and social cohesion, and youth in cohesive communities are less likely to participate in behaviors such as gang involvement and drug use. These mature trees and green space are essential infrastructure and community resources you cannot get back once they are gone. The trees and park are the safety net for our kids, especially in the park where Tamir was murdered. Don't you think our children and community have faced enough trauma? restart the school design plan today. As Nelson Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it's done. Future generations will thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment period. I know that Ms. Patty Chobe is with us today. Ms. Chobe, could you come up and give us just a very brief overview of the process we've had so far, the status of the trees at Seltzer?
Good evening and welcome, Dr. Morgan. And good evening to Chair Ellicott and Vice Chair Hudnall.
Good evening.
I did prepare some comments. I'm going to deviate from them for a quick second because I want to echo what Councilman Spencer shared about clarifying around the process of the plan and the Marion Seltzer building being reaffirmed in the 2019 update of the school district's master plan, and talk sort of what has happened since then. And so one thing I do want to say is that when COVID did hit, because the OFCC stopped meeting, all planning and all new school launches were put on hold. And so we did not have any activities, like absolutely nothing to do with the OFCC during 2020 and 2021. They finally started meeting in the fall of 21 again, and we were able to start talking with them about hiring the design builder. So in early 22, that was really when the Marion Seltzer design process took shape. Our partner, the OFCC, hired the design builders, and then there were a series of meetings that took place to get feedback on different stages of the design. So we started meeting in March of early 22. We then were meeting with the city, Parks and Recreation department staff, the Mayor's Office of Capital Projects, because we've been coordinating the design closely with them, and with the local design review. There were a couple visits to them, and then ultimately to the Landmarks Commission in 2023. So in about a year and a half, there were a series of community meetings, there were opportunities for feedback, there were articles in the newspaper about starting the process to design the actual building. And it wasn't until after Landmarks permission had been granted, which is really the final approval that we need from the city, that the tree preservation plan request was made of the design team. The landscape architect on the project was not aware that they had to complete a tree preservation plan. And so by this time, all of the design work is done, things are getting ready to go out to bid. And what the design team has done in the last 60 days is we had 2 community meetings. A lot of the folks that were at those meetings are here tonight, so I want to thank them for coming out and providing feedback to us, because after the July 11th and August 9th meeting, we had the tree preservation plan done by a certified arborist, which is required by the city policy. We have since field checked that plan and cleaned it up. The new plan with the appropriate number of trees that will be impacted by construction is on that plan with a color-coded map, and you can find that at clevelandmetroschools.org/segment 8. And I do want to just correct some of the numbers for everybody who was in the audience today. The plan basically identified 65 trees, 31 will be preserved. Of the 34 remaining trees that would be removed, 5 are very large diseased ash trees, 4 are weedy nuisance mulberry trees, and the tree protection plan has both directions for how to preserve the existing trees as well as what to do to make the existing trees more healthy. And in addition to that, there would be additional follow-up that would happen after the trees would be, after the replacement trees would be planted. The other thing that we did after the August 9th meeting was the design build team hired an expert in relocating trees, physically moving them from their current location to another location. That report can also be found on the website, and the short summary recommendation is that the bald cypress tree is not a candidate for moving because of its root system that's intertwined with subterranean utility things like 30-inch water mains, and there is also a complicated trunk structure, and there is also subterranean leftover infrastructure from when West Boulevard actually went between on the east side of Cadell Rec Center. So the recommendation was very clear-cut after the arborist was out there last Friday. And the last thing that I just want to say is that there are opportunities when the city starts to redesign the public portion of the grounds in early January. There will be opportunities to increase additional green space so that we're not technically getting rid of half of the green space that is there. And there will also be opportunities to increase the green space around the clock tower, which the design was built around, respected, and will continue to be there and will be renovated as a part of the city's infrastructure project at the rec center. So that is where we are and what has happened over the last 30 to 45 days.
Thank you so much. Next, the board will consider the adoption of 15 resolutions in the areas of finance, operations, academics, and talent. As it is the board's practice to not hold a board work session in August, the board will be both presented with these resolutions and asked to vote on them at the same meeting. That being the case, the board will conduct separate roll call votes on each resolution. Resolution 6.01. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 6.01 designating depositories of public monies of the Cleveland Municipal School District. Thank you. Do I hear a second? Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes. Every 5 years, according to Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 135, the district is required to designate eligible banks to provide services to the district. The board adopted a resolution on June 27, 2023, estimating the amount of money to be deposited and providing notice of the intent to designate depository institutions. Required notice was published in the Plain Dealer and on the district's procurement website. This resolution designates the following banks as eligible depository institutions for the Cleveland Municipal School District: Fifth Third Bank, Huntington National Bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank, and Key Bank.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Yes, Ms. Welch-Howell.
Since my employer is one of the designated depositories listed in this resolution, notwithstanding the fact that I have no direct or indirect pecuniary interest in this resolution and would not in any way profit from it, in order to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest, I will abstain from all discussions of this resolution and abstain from voting on this resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Welch-Howell. Any others? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll on this motion?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes, and I also want to say that my employer, PNC Bank, did not submit an application, which is why I can vote yes.
Dr. Sridhar? Dr. Thomas? Yes. Ms. Welch-Howell? The motion passes with 7 votes.
Thank you.
6 votes, 1 abstention.
The motion passes and this resolution is adopted. Resolution 6.02. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 6.02 authorizing the acceptance of gifts and grants from Cleveland Clinic, Deshaun Watson, the Jack Joseph and Morton Mandel Foundation, Marilyn Shea Stoneham and Gary Stoneham, the Marie Richardson Memorial Fund, the Cleveland Foundation, the George Gunn Foundation, Digital Promise Global, Ohio Arts Council, Save the Music Foundation, William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, and authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to spend the funds in accordance with the terms and condition of the gift and grants. Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes, and the full breakdown of each of the grant and the purposes is in the report. But with this resolution, the board will be accepting the gifts and grants and authorizing the CEO to spend these gifts and grants in accordance with the terms and conditions of the board.
Any discussion from board members? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Welch-Howell?
Yes.
A motion passes with 7 votes.
Thank you. The motion passes and this resolution is adopted. Resolution 6.03. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 6.03, authorizing the acceptance of grants from the Department of Health and Human Services, the Ohio Attorney General, and the Ohio Department of Education, and authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to spend the funds in accordance with the terms and conditions of the grants. Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes, once again, the full explanation of the breakdown of each of these grants and the gifts is in the report. But with this resolution, the board will be accepting grants and authorizing the CEO to spend these grants in accordance with the terms and conditions of the grants.
Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll on this motion?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall? Yes. Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar? Yes. Dr. Thomas? Yes. Ms. Welch-Howell? Yes. Motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The resolution is adopted. Resolution 7.01. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 7.01, authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to issue term agreements and supplier contracts to multiple cab and van suppliers to transport special education students to alternative facilities and to transport Foster and McKinney-Vento students to promote educational stability for the 2023-24 school year in an amount not to exceed $5 million. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we have an explanation of this resolution, please?
Yes. This annual resolution enables the Transportation Department to transport students via cab and van service to alternative locations in schools, both within and out of the district, that offer programs based on the students' individualized education plans, the IEPs. IEPs determine whether students can be transported as ride-alongs or up to 5 per vehicle. This is in accordance with the Every Student Succeeds Act and the McKinney-Vento Act. Under an upcoming RFP, Transportation will revise the current list of outside suppliers that will be providing service for our scholars effective October 1st, 2023. Supplier contracts totaling the amount of $5 million are required to meet these transportation obligations.
Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Welch-Howell? Motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The resolution is adopted. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 7.02, authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to issue term agreements and purchase orders to multiple suppliers to provide parts and services in support of transportation maintenance for the 2023-24 school year in an amount not to exceed $1.3 million.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes. This annual resolution for parts and services to repair and maintain a fleet of 302 school buses, along with a few snowplows and vans and light trucks. The explanation of each of The services provided for this is in the full report, but this resolution is including those fleets that are discussed.
Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall? Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Welch-Howe?
Yes.
Motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. This resolution is adopted. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 7.03, authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to issue term agreements and supplier contracts to community bus service and right-way transportation to provide transportation services for students attending ESSEL and breakthrough schools and additional non-public schools if needed for the 23-24 school year in an amount not to exceed $3 million. Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes, this is an annual resolution to maintain compliance with Ohio law and regulations regarding ESSEL and breakthrough schools student transport. Where it is deemed practical, pupil transportation services must be provided for ESSEL and breakthrough schools on a same basis principle pursuant to a revised code. The ESSEL and breakthrough schools have resolved to relinquish responsibility of providing transportation of their students to Cleveland Metropolitan School District. CMSD will assume the responsibility of transporting these students based on eligibility.
Any discussion from board members? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Welch-Howe?
Yes.
Motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. This resolution is adopted. Resolution 7.04. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 7.04, authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to issue a supplier contract to Education Logistics for the yearly licensing fee for routing, GPS, and student tracking software in an amount not to exceed $224,561.02 to increase customer satisfaction and department efficiency.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes, this is an annual resolution with Education Logistics, EduLog, to provide routing, GPS, and student tracking software licensing for the district's transportation fleet. Transportation uses GPS tracking to control costs, increase efficiency, and be more customer and service-oriented by providing user-friendly technology for parents and scholars.
Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Yes, Ms. Link.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Morgan, so it's sort of related to this, but I remember back in past days when it was the first day of school, it was always like a little challenging to get the students there, and like I'm just wondering how the busing and everything went overall for these first couple days.
Yes, I can give an overview. I know we discussed this in our back-to-school debrief, and we also have Eric Taylor, who's over our transportation department here, if there's anything else you would add here. In general, all our transportation went well. We did have a few routes that were delayed, but as Mr. Taylor mentioned, it was on par for where we had been in past years. Mr. Taylor, is there anything you would add to that, amend? The question was overall, how did transportation go in the opening days of school?
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, please? Good evening, everyone.
The question was, how did transportation go for the first couple of days of school? I shared that we debriefed it yesterday, and it was on par for where we had been in past years. We had a few late routes, but nothing that was extraordinary. I didn't know if you had anything else you would add or amend.
So I would say that we had a pretty good startup this year. We've had a challenge with our drivers this year. With the number of drivers that we're bringing in. That's always been a challenge, but we're able to work around it with our routing. We are continuing to route students. We are continuing to revise routes. We are continuing to provide that information and routing information to all of our parents out there so they know the revisions as they're coming about. But I would say overall, we had a pretty good start up this year, and we're going to continue to improve on that.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. And yeah, I was excited to attend time with our transportation department earlier this year. So,
any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll on this motion?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall? Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar? Yes. Dr. Thomas? Ms. Welchow? The motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. This resolution is adopted. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 7.05, authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to issue term agreements and purchase orders in the amount of $2.5 million to suppliers awarded as the result of competitive solicitation issued by the Ohio Schools Council Cooperative Purchasing Consortia for the purchase of unleaded diesel and propane fuels to support transportation operations for the 2023-24 school year. Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes, this is an annual resolution to purchase unleaded diesel and propane fuel. The district currently utilizes different standard fuels for its fleet of vehicles, including school buses, trucks, vans, and cars. The district's transportation fleet will use over 500,000 gallons of fuel this upcoming school year.
Any discussion from board members? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall? Mr. Briggs? Yes. Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar? Yes. Dr. Thomas? Ms. Welchow? The motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The resolution is adopted. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 7.06, declaring transportation impractical for certain identified students as presented pursuant to the requirements of House Bill 110, Ohio Revised Code 3327, and the procedures set forth by the Ohio Department of Education, and which follows careful evaluation of all other available options prior to consideration of impracticality in an amount not to exceed $800,000. Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes. In accordance with Ohio Revised Code 3327.02, the Board of Education of a city, exempted village, or local school district may determine that it is impractical to transport a pupil who is eligible for the transportation to and from school. House Bill 110 states that the payment in lieu of transportation must be at least 50% of the statewide average cost per pupil for the previous year. The average cost per pupil for the 2022-2023 school year was $1,077.09, therefore making the 50% amount mandated to $538.55 per student. Cost per student is prorated based on the number of days the student attends school. After careful evaluation of these factors for this annual resolution, Transportation has identified 1,478 eligible students, which is in the attachment in the report, whose parents and guardians have accepted the offer of payment in lieu of transportation based on impracticality for the period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Mr. Stockdale?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Welchow? The motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. This resolution is adopted. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 8.01, authorizing the purchase of Youth Opportunities Unlimited Career Planning Program from 9th to 12th grade students in the amount not to exceed $300,000.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes, earlier you had the chance to hear a report on YOU and in terms of the impact it had on our scholars this summer. So the Youth Opportunities Unlimited, YOU, historically supports our students through community-wide summer jobs program, Jobs for Ohio's Graduates, JOG, and a variety of other career-related programs. These services were provided at no cost to the district. During the 2023-2024 school year, YOU will significantly expand its role in the execution of the Planning and Career Exploration PACE framework by delivering curriculum and career advising. The program will expand from 6 schools with JOG to all high schools receiving services from YOU in support of PACE programming. Activities facilitated by PACE career readiness staff will include networking, job preparation skills, career exploration, resume writing, interviewing skills, and advising sessions for students in each grade level 9 through 12.
Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall? Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar? Yes. Dr. Thomas? Ms. Welch-Howe? Motion passes with 8 votes.
The resolution is adopted. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 8.02, adopting a resolution of intent not to provide career technical education in grades 7 and 8.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes, according to Ohio Revised Code Section 3313.90, it requires each city, local, and exempted village and school district to provide students in grades 7 through 12 career technical education programming. I'm happy to report for the school year 23-24, CMSD intends to offer career and technical education programming at Clark, Bureau schools through the Family and Consumer Sciences pathway, and Adelaide Stevenson, Anton Gradiner, Charles A. Mooney, Clark, Marion Sterling, Mary B. Martin, Nathan Hale, Orchard STEM, Tremont Montessori, and Waverly schools will be offering coursework through the engineering pathway. It should be noted we've grown from 6 to 11 schools offering career and technical education programming for the middle grade students, and to be in compliance with this, each year we will add on until all of our 7th and 8th graders in our district are doing career and technical education programming.
Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Welch-Howe? The motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The resolution is adopted. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 9.02, authorizing the reclassification of employees.
Second.
Thank you. All right, we'll do 9.02 and then 9.01. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Dr. Morgan, could we have an explanation of the Resolution 9.02?
Yes, this is a monthly. Yes, this is a monthly resolution authorizing the reclassification of 180 employees this month. The breakdown of which local union they are coming from and by position is included in the report.
Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall? Yes. Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar? Yes. Dr. Thomas? Ms. Welch-Howe? The motion passes with 8 votes.
The resolution is adopted. Going back to 9.01, the chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 9.01, authorizing the employment of teaching, non-teaching, and school-based administrative staff.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes, this is a monthly resolution authorizing a total of 285 new hires this month in the following categories that are set out in the report. You can see by the union and the breakdown of the position. As you heard from Mr. Christian earlier, I'm happy to report that hiring is ahead of where we were at last time this year, and we currently have fewer vacancies than we did this time last year.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall? Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas? Ms. Welch-Howe? The motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The resolution is adopted. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 9.03, accepting the retirements, resignations, and other separations of employees.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes, this is a monthly resolution, including all of our separations of our employees. And this month we have a total of 208. In the report, you can see the breakdown by position and local union.
Any discussion? Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll? Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall? Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar? Dr. Thomas? Ms. Welch-Howe? The motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The resolution is adopted. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 9.04, authorizing the issuance of limited contracts for differential positions and the payment of additional earned compensation to employees.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, could we please have an explanation of this resolution?
Yes, this is a monthly resolution authorizing limited contracts for differentials and payment for of additional compensation to a total of 643 employees this month. If you look in the report, you can see the breakdown by position.
Thank you. Any discussion from board members? Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall? Yes. Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas? Ms. Welch-Howe? The motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. That concludes the resolutions. Before we move on, it has come to my attention that we, in our attempt to accept 2 different ways of sign up for public comment, we missed one person who put in a form in advance of the deadline, Mr. Brent Eisenbach. Would you mind please coming up? And I apologize that we missed you and kept you until the very end. Okay.
The new process and some kinks to work out with that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brent Eisenbach. I'm a resident of the Cadell neighborhood. I have 2 children in the district and one that'll be in the district in a couple of years. Over 100 years ago, Mr. Cadell willed the city of Cleveland a gift of property to, quote, transform the grounds, which shall become part of the Cadell Park Group, into a beautiful public flower garden of perennial and annual plants, end quote. Regardless of what transpired between his death and the transfer in 1935, the result of which extinguished his dying wishes, his will and intent is crystal clear. Due to poor planning, CMSD has backed themselves into a corner as it relates to swing space or other alternatives for the current students of Marion Seltzer. Due to a lack of vision and tunnel-like focus on getting through the permitting, the architect and the consultant team dismissed suggestions by the local design review board as far back as January of 2023 to pause and re-examine the site layout with an eye toward preserving green space and minimizing the removal of trees. Due to inadequate public notification, the City of Cleveland and CMSD have sold out our precious little green space in the Cadell neighborhood. Given the presumed lifespan of a new school, this travesty is going to last for generations and affect thousands of residents long after any of us are dead. Sure, the consultant claims to have had sufficient public meetings, but I dare say if the invitation said, demolishing 40% of your green space and not just come to the new Marion Seltzer public planning meeting, the outcry probably would have occurred years ago. Furthermore, if the Marion Seltzer public meeting had said that the city was swapping park space for land to sell to developers in Detroit Shoreway, we wouldn't even be having this conversation here today. The whole process would have been a non-starter from the very beginning. It just demonstrates that the planning of the site happened out of sight of the residents that will affect the most. No one doubts that the scholars at Marion Seltzer need new facilities, but study after study shows that children also need trees and green space in order to thrive. Our world is on the cusp of a climate crisis. Even years and years of effort by the city of Cleveland, we still have diminishing tree canopy statistics. And yet the best that we can do is to cut down trees, build on green space, and install yet more parking at a site that already has abundant parking and exceptional access to transit. The school board must recognize the will of Frank Cadell. You must recognize the will of the people and return the land to the city so that it can be preserved as green space for the community as it was always intended to be. This opportunity is for the Board of Education to renew the gift that Mr. Cadell gave us, the green space, and provide for the future of our community. As Nelson Mandela said, Chairman, it always seems impossible until it's done. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? Dr. Thomas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Ohio School Board Association has been busy over the summer. I attended the Legislative Platform Committee meeting on August the 12th. We reviewed 7 proposals from local school districts. 1 moved forward that will be presented to the delegate assembly at the annual OSBA conference, which, by the way, will be held Sunday, November 13th through Sunday the 12th, Monday the 13th and Tuesday the 14th, for those of you who want to attend the OSBA conference that comes up in November. And then for those of you who really like OSBA, the regional meeting will be held Wednesday night, October the 4th. That's at the lovely Galaxy Room in Wadsworth, Ohio. It's a night not to be missed, and so that's for your calendar for Wednesday, the 4th of October.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Ms. Hudnall?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to echo our warm welcome to Mr. Briggs and Ms. Welchow. And I also wanted to share that I'm speaking as Leah, the mom, and not member of the school board, that I had a successful start to the school week. So I just wanted to share that with my colleagues here and all of you as a way to remind the community that we are engaging in the system that we are governing. So thank you to everyone who played a role, from transportation all the way down to the lunch aid that my son is very infatuated with. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hudnall, and congratulations on a great first week. Any other new business?
I just have one comment. My dad would be very upset if I didn't make it. He spent his weekend at his 50th class reunion at Glenville High School this past weekend, so would have been very excited at our special presentation with Ted Ginn Sr. So I'm very excited to be here. It was a great, their pictures were a great kickoff to this week, so thank you all.
Thank you. Missing anyone? All right. And then on behalf of the board, I want to wish Mr. Hurd a happy birthday. He's celebrating a birthday this month. We're not going to sing, but happy birthday. No. Oh, okay. The next regular board meeting will be a work session on Tuesday, September 12th at 6:30 p.m. back here at East Professional Center. The chair will now entertain a motion that the board enter into executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment of employment of public employees and officials, preparing for negotiations with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and conferring with attorneys concerning disputes involving the Board of Education that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Stockdale, please call the roll.
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas? Ms. Welchow? Yes. The motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The board will now move into executive session. Following executive session, the board will return to this room to briefly conduct some further business.
Good morning! Happy birthday to you!
Today's such an amazing day for me just because I am a Cleveland kid, born and raised right here, not far from the School of Arts, and now to be a part of the process and the head of school is truly magical, and it means a lot to me.
Hello and welcome to the 2022 Tech Fest and Back to School Bash here at the East Professional Center.
If they have a device that needs repair, they can get the diagnostic done right here at the Tech Fest and have their device looked at.
Today I'd just like to go over some emergency management things that we have put in place for the upcoming year.
The district is also investing $900,000 to improve security cameras. They will also make sure that all the locks on all exterior doors to school buildings and classroom doors are working properly. You see, for Paige Novell and Perez Bryant,
so how does this look?
They were both students at CMSD and are both now teaching at the same schools they were students.
Good morning and welcome to our citywide Get to School You Can Make It pep rally. Let's make some noise.
You might be 1/3 less likely to graduate if you miss just one day a month. If you miss 2 days of school a month, by the time you get to the end of the year, you've missed an entire month of school.
Today we're opening the Fresh Fruit and Veggie Bar at Max Hayes High School. Last year we applied for a USDA Farm to School grant, and the whole idea was to provide fruit and veggie bars in some of our schools as a trial to see how they would work.
It makes it customizable for the students. This allows them an opportunity to customize themselves based on a flavor profile that they would enjoy.
Our school has been renamed for a woman who first made her mark on America in the 19th century. Mary Church Terrell was a lecturer, educator, and activist who stood for racial equality and women's rights.
On this day, fathers, grandfathers, and father figures are encouraged to walk their children to school. Across the district, 60 schools participated in the Father's Walk.
We know that when families are engaged, students do better.
We begin with breaking news tonight.
Cleveland Metropolitan School District CEO Eric Gordon is stepping down.
CMSD is in a strong financial, operational, and personnel health. And that vital health ensures the district's continued progress through periods of transition as we enter into the exchange zone this school year.
During the first demonstrations of learning of the academic year, students at Anton Gradina pre-K through 8 school were excited to present what they've learned about bees.
It's honey right here. That's the honeycomb.
So the reason that we wanted to do a great debate is because we wanted to showcase the talents of our 9th graders. As we were putting together argumentative essays, it became very apparent that our students had some very good critical thinking skills.
Today was our annual White Coat ceremony. This is the day that marks the beginning of our senior internship at Metro Health Hospital.
2 backs in the backfield. Solid run, but Marshall gobbles them up. Flag strong on the play.
Meet Kyron and Darian. These Cleveland Early College High School juniors are perched above the field in the broadcast booth. They are giving their commentary and play-by-play of this game.
It's like a school-wide book club, and if I want to talk to someone about the book, there's always someone I can talk to.
This book is part of the One School, One Book reading program at Mary Bethune Pre-K through 8 school started last year. This is the 4th book the entire school has read together.
As we think about doing violence prevention work in the city and any work in the city where we're going to be focused on the improvement of the lives of our residents, it is essential that we include resident voice. And we want to make sure that our young people, the youth in our city, know that their voice matters. And we want to center a lot of our ideas, a lot of our interventions in the things that they are telling us that they actually need.
No more silence! I got violence!
It's people like these students here that make this community a better place to live. Actions like this should never go unrecognized, but they often do. So today, we wanted to take time to personally thank them for assisting those small children. and their actions ensured the safety and reunited them with their mother. Thank you for assisting the Cleveland Division of Police in reuniting these children with their family. It's citizens like you that make a difference in our community.
Tonight we're here at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for our annual CMSD Thanksgiving dinner. It's a great opportunity for us, our entire team, our coaches and our players to give back to the community and specifically to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District.
Welcome to our school and the unveiling of our new Verizon Innovation Lab.
I like being at the Choice Fair because it's better than looking in the brochure, and I can actually have a visual of what I'm looking for.
It makes me proud to live in the district as well as have opportunities individualized based for her.
It's a lot of people that is rooting for us as a team to bring history back to Cleveland. You understand? We have no doubt. We've been in this thing for 11 to 12 weeks, months. I mean, you know. So we just got to go and finish it out, and we're going to get that done. All right.
Steps up, throwing. Coverage is good. Oh, what a grab! Going up to get it and coming down with it is Demarion Witten, the tight end. And the final seconds will tick away. The Glenville Tarblooders do in fact make history. First Cleveland Municipal School District school to win a state football championship during the playoff era. The Glenville Tarblooders, the Division IV state champs in 2022.
Let's show some love for our state champions one more time. I just want to say, on behalf of the great city of Cleveland, this team has made everybody proud. Everybody proud. Not only did these young men show what greatness looks like in Cleveland, but they made history in our great city.
Desmond walked into the East Professional Center gym with his head held high, holding a hat from the school he plans to play football. Desmond also attended both CMSD HBCU combines. He was noticed by the Alabama A&M recruiter and became the first player who attended a combine to receive a scholarship offer.
So last week, international philanthropist Mackenzie Scott donated nearly $2 billion to 343 organizations that help underserved communities. And today it is my pleasure to share that she included in that huge donation a $20 million gift to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District.
Thank you, Mackenzie Scott.
Thank you, Mackenzie Scott. Thank you, Mackenzie Scott.
These 40 students from high schools across the district came to East Professional Center with one task: to give money to worthy causes. First, the students divided up and read the 93 grant applications totaling $5 million. They had to decide which grants should be funded from the Get More Opportunities Fund.
Today we are kicking off a year-long initiative called Cleveland Reads. Our goal over the course of 2023 is to get Clevelanders to read 1 million books and or read 1 million minutes throughout the course of the year.
Lincoln West School of Science and Medicine High School Principal Juliet King gave a tour of the classrooms located inside Metro's main campus to Congresswomen Chantel Brown and Amelia Sykes, along with United States Department of Human and Health Services Secretary Javier Becerra and Metro Health CEO Dr. Erica Steed. On this tour, they talked about increasing the pipeline of healthcare workers.
Hello everybody, we're so happy to be here in Cleveland and just spent the morning visiting some amazing schools. I'm Cindy Martin, Deputy Secretary of Education, representing Secretary Cardona for our Raise the Bar, Lead the World tour, where we're looking across the country on this tour around excellent academic learning conditions and how we're increasing student access to high quality learning like we see here.
pleasure that I welcome you to the new Executive Grill.
This is going into my 23rd, 24th year, just how we've come from a small little cafeteria program, just cooking for the people in the building and the students, to the reach that we've accomplished over the last few years, and how we're going to be able to engage with the community more now.
We went on Edgewater to clean up the beach and pick up microplastics.
They're from like bigger plastics, and they've decomposed and like degraded into tiny little bits.
Nearly 56 years to the day Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his Rise Up speech at Glenville High School, the Cleveland Restoration Society unveiled a Cleveland Civil Rights Trail marker.
This is amazing for our scholars.
And I think it's going to be a good movement for the neighborhood to see that the marker is here and the legacy that he left.
I certify that all the students on this stage today have met all of the educational requirements of the state of Ohio and the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and have passed all of the required parts of the Ohio graduation and the Ohio State test. These students are now ready to receive their diplomas.
I'm excited. Anytime I can meet with students, it brightens up my day. I also know you guys are my toughest crew I had, so I'll have to be on my best crew.
The announcement is in regarding who will be the new leader at the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Dr. Warren Morgan there. He's taking over in July.
Cleveland, it feels great to be home. It just feels really, really great to be home. And words can't describe how excited I am for this opportunity. I'm extremely humbled, honored, but above all, just extremely grateful.
Educators at Paul L. Dunbar Arts Enrichment Academy welcomed students as they walked into the building to start this year's CMSD Summer Learning Experience. Parents and students both excited.
The Summer Learning Experience is the best time for kids to do projects that interest them. They had to say so in what they wanted to do, how they wanted to do it, and now they take ownership of their project, which is what demonstration learning is all about.
So I think the reason that we made this book to show people that they need to stop cyberbullying, stop doing stuff on social media or even in real life, and everything else.
So I want you to understand that this book, our book, your book that you created, is going to help so many other young adults just like you. So you should be very proud of yourself that you're courageous enough to even write about this or create this book to help somebody else. You're not just thinking about your sister, you're thinking about other people as well. And I'm so proud of you for that.
A week before they board a plane, students participated in a media day of sorts. They told reporters about the project they call Hands Across Borders that they've been working on for months. They use 3D printers to make prosthetic arms for children in Ecuador.
To be able to provide access to all of our families and scholars right here on the main floor of East Professional Center, even more in addition to providing 24-hour service.
So CMSD family, we are confronted by challenges, but our momentum is growing. Our resilience is irrepressible, and our success is certain. I'm so excited and happy to be home. I look forward to welcoming you soon to the start of a new school year. I continue to be grateful, and I thank you.
Good morning! Happy birthday to you!
Today's such an amazing day for me just because I am a Cleveland kid, born and raised right here, not far from the School of Arts, and now to be a part of the process and the head of school is truly magical, and it means a lot to me.
Hello and welcome to the 2022 Tech Fest and Back to School Bash here at the East Professional Center.
If they have a device that needs repair, they can get the diagnostic done right here at the Tech Fest and have their device looked at.
Today I'd just like to go over some emergency management things that we have put in place for the upcoming year.
The district is also investing $900,000 to improve security cameras. They will also make sure that all the locks on all exterior doors to school buildings and classroom doors are working properly.
You see, for Paige Novell and Perez Bryant,
So how does this look?
they were both students at CMSD and are both now teaching at the same schools they were students.
Good morning and welcome to our citywide Get to School You Can Make It pep rally. Let's make some noise.
You might be 1/3 less likely to graduate if you miss just one day a month. If you miss 2 days of school a month, by the time you get to the end of the year, you've missed an entire month of school.
Today we're opening the Fresh Fruit and Veggie Bar at Max Hayes High School. Last year we applied for a USDA Farm to School grant, and the whole idea was to provide fruit and veggie bars in some of our schools as a trial to see how they would work.
It makes it customizable for the students. This allows them an opportunity to customize themselves based on a flavor profile that they would enjoy.
Our school has been renamed for a woman who first made her mark on America in the 19th century. Mary Church Terrell was a lecturer, educator, and activist who stood for racial equality and women's rights.
On this day, fathers, grandfathers, and father figures are encouraged to walk their children to school. Across the district, 60 schools participated in the Father's Walk.
We know that when families are engaged, students do better.
We begin with breaking news tonight.
Cleveland Metropolitan School District CEO Eric Gordon is stepping down.
CMSD is in a strong financial, operational, and personnel health. And that vital health ensures the district's continued progress through periods of transition as we enter into the exchange zone this school year.
During the first demonstrations of learning of the academic year, students at Anton Gradina Pre-K through 8 school were excited to present what they've learned about bees.
It's honey right here. That's the honeycomb.
So the reason that we wanted to do a great debate is because we wanted to showcase the talents of our 9th graders. As we were putting together argumentative essays, it became very apparent that our students had some very good critical thinking skills.
Today was our annual white coat ceremony. This is the day that marks the beginning of our senior internship at Metro Health Hospital.
2 backs in the backfield. Solid run, the marshal gobbles them up. Flag strong on the play.
Meet Kyron and Darian. These Cleveland Early College high school juniors are perched above the field in the broadcast booth. They are giving their commentary and play-by-play of this game.
It's like a school-wide book club, and if I want to talk to someone about the book, there's always someone I can talk to.
This book is part of the One School, One Book reading program at Mary Bethune Pre-K through 8 school started last year. This is the 4th book the entire school has read together.
As we think about doing violence prevention work in the city and any work in the city where we're going to be focused on the improvement of the lives of our residents, it is essential that we include resident voice. And we want to make sure that our young people, the youth in our city, know that their voice matters. And we want to center a lot of our ideas, a lot of our interventions in the things that they are telling us that they actually need.
No more silence! And not violence!
It's people like these students here that make this community a better place to live. Actions like this should never go unrecognized, but they often do. So today, we wanted to take time to personally thank them for assisting those small children, and their actions ensured the safety and reunited them with their mother. Thank you for assisting the Cleveland Division of Police in reuniting these children with their family. It's citizens like you that make a difference in our community.
Tonight we're here at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for our annual CMSD Thanksgiving dinner. It's a great opportunity for us, our entire team, our coaches and our players to give back to the community and specifically to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District.
Welcome to our school and the unveiling of our new Verizon Innovation Lab.
I like being at the Choice Fair because it's better than looking in the brochure, and I can actually have a visual of what I'm looking for.
it makes me proud to live in the district as well as have opportunities individualized based for her.
It's a lot of people that is rooting for us as a team to bring history back to Cleveland. You understand? We have no doubt. We've been in this thing for 11 to 12 weeks, months, I mean. You know, so we just got to go and finish it out. And we're gonna get that done, all right?
Steps up throwing. Coverage is good. Oh, what a grab! Going up to get it and coming down with it is Demarion Witten, the tight end. And the final seconds will tick away. The Glenville Tarblooders do in fact make history. First Cleveland Municipal School District school to win a state football championship during the playoff era. The Glenville Tarblooders, the Division IV state champs in 2022.
Let's show some love for our state champions one more time! I just want to say, on behalf of the great city of Cleveland, this team has made everybody proud. Everybody proud. Not only did these young men show what greatness looks like in Cleveland, but they made history in our great city.
Desmond walked into the East Professional Center gym with his head held high, holding a hat from the school he plans to play football. Desmond also attended both CMSD HBCU combines. He was noticed by the Alabama A&M recruiter and became the first player who attended a combine to receive a scholarship offer.
So last week, international philanthropist Mackenzie Scott donated nearly $2 billion to 343 organizations that help underserved communities. And today it is my pleasure to share that she included in that huge donation a $20 million gift to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District.
Thank you, Mackenzie Scott.
Thank you, Mackenzie Scott. Thank you, Mackenzie Scott.
These 40 students from high schools across the district came to East Professional Center with one task: to give money to worthy causes. First, the students divided up and read the 93 grant applications totaling $5 million. They had to decide which grants should be funded from the Get More Opportunities Fund.
Today we are kicking off a year-long initiative called Cleveland Reads. Our goal over the course of 2023 is to get Clevelanders to read 1 million books and or read 1 million minutes throughout the course of the year.
Lincoln West School of Science and Medicine High School Principal Juliet King gave a tour of the classrooms located inside Metro's main campus to Congresswomen Chantel Brown and Amelia Sykes, along with United States Department of Human and Health Services Secretary Javier Becerra and Metro Health CEO Dr. Erica Steed. On this tour, they talked about increasing the pipeline of healthcare workers.
Hello, everybody. We're so happy to be here in Cleveland and just spent the morning visiting some amazing schools. I'm Cindy Martin, Deputy Secretary of Education, representing Secretary Cardona for our Raise the Bar, Lead the World tour, where we're looking across the country on this tour around excellent academic learning conditions and how we're increasing student access to high-quality learning like we see here.
With pleasure that I welcome you to the new Executive Grill.
Being this is going into my 23rd, 24th year, just how we've come from a small little cafeteria program, just cooking for the people in the building and the students, to the reach that we've accomplished over the last few years, and how we're going to be able to engage with the community more now.
We went on Edgewater to clean up the beach and pick up microplastics.
They're from like bigger plastics, and they've decomposed and like degraded into tiny little bits.
Nearly 56 years to the day, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his Rise Up speech at Glenville High School. The Cleveland Restoration Society unveiled a Cleveland Civil Rights Trail marker.
This is amazing for our scholars.
And I think it's going to be a good movement for the neighborhood to see that the marker is here and the legacy that he left.
I certify that all the students on this stage today have met all of the educational requirements of the state of Ohio and the Cleveland Metropolitan School District and have passed all of the required parts of the Ohio graduation and the Ohio State test. These students are now ready to receive their diplomas.
I'm excited. Anytime I can meet with students, it brightens up my day. I also know you guys are my toughest crew I had, so I'll have to be on my best crew.
The announcement is in regarding who will be the new leader at the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Dr. Warren Morgan there. He's taking over in July.
Cleveland, it feels great to be home. It just feels really, really great to be home. And words can't describe how excited I am for this opportunity. I'm extremely humbled, honored, but above all, just extremely grateful.
Educators at Paul L. Dunbar Arts Enrichment Academy welcomed students as they walked into the building to start this year's CMSD Summer Learning Experience. Parents and students both excited.
The Summer Learning Experience is the best time for kids to do projects that interest them. They had to say so in what they wanted to do, how they wanted to do it, and now they take ownership of their project, which is what demonstration learning is all about.
So I think the reason that we made this book to show people that they need to stop cyberbullying, stop doing stuff on social media or even in real life, and everything else.
So I want you to understand that this book, our book, your book that you created, is going to help so many other young adults just like you. So you should be very proud of yourself that you're courageous enough to even write about this or create this book to help somebody else. You're not just thinking about your sister, you're thinking about other people as well. And I'm so proud of you for that.
A week before they board a plane, students participated in a media day of sorts. They told reporters about the project they call Hands Across Borders that they've been working on for months. They use 3D printers to make prosthetic arms for children in Ecuador.
To be able to provide access to all of our families and scholars right here on the main floor of East Professional Center, even more in addition to providing 24-hour service.
So CMSD family, we are confronted by challenges, but our momentum is growing. Our resilience is irrepressible, and our success is certain. I'm so excited and happy to be home. I look forward to welcoming you soon to the start of a new school year. I continue to be grateful, and I thank you.
Good morning! Happy birthday to you!
Today's such an amazing day for me just because I am a Cleveland kid, born and raised right here, not far from the School of Arts, and now to be a part of the process and the head of school is truly magical, and it means a lot to me.
Hello and welcome to the 2022 Tech Fest and Back to School Bash here at the East Professional Center.
If they have a device that needs repair, they can get the diagnostic done right here at the Tech Fest and have their device looked at.
Today I'd just like to go over some emergency management things that we have put in place for the upcoming year.
The district is also investing $900,000 to improve security cameras. They will also make sure that all the locks on all exterior doors to school buildings and classroom doors are working properly.
You see, for Paige Novell and Perez Bryant,
So how did it look?
they were both students at CMSD and are both now teaching at the same schools they were students.
Good morning and welcome to our citywide Get to School You Can Make It pep rally. Let's make some noise.
You might be 1/3 less likely to graduate if you miss just one day a month. If you miss 2 days of school a month, by the time you get to the end of the year, you've missed an entire month of school.
Today we're opening the Fresh Fruit and Veggie Bar at Max Hayes High School. Last year we applied for a USDA Farm to School grant, and the whole idea was to provide fruit and veggie bars in some of our schools as a trial to see how they would work.
It makes it customizable for the students. This allows them an opportunity to customize themselves based on a flavor profile that they would enjoy.
Our school has been renamed for a woman who first made her mark on America in the 19th century. Mary Church Terrell was a lecturer, educator, and activist who stood for racial equality and women's rights.
On this day, fathers, grandfathers, and father figures are encouraged to walk their children to school. Across the district, 60 schools participated in the Father's Walk.
We know that when families are engaged, students do better.
We begin with breaking news tonight.
Cleveland Metropolitan School District CEO Eric Gordon is stepping down.
CMSD is in a strong financial, operational, and personnel health. And that vital health ensures the district's continued progress through periods of transition as we enter into the exchange zone this school year.
During the first demonstrations of learning of the academic year, students at Anton Gradina Pre-K through 8 school were excited to present what they've learned about bees.
It's honey right here. That's the honeycomb.
So the reason that we wanted to do a great debate is because we wanted to showcase the talents of our 9th graders. As we were putting together argumentative essays, it became very apparent that our students had some very good critical thinking skills.
Today was our annual white coat ceremony. This is the day that marks the beginning of our senior internship at Metro Health Hospital.
2 backs in the backfield. Solid run, the marshal gobbles them up. Flag strong on the play.
Meet Kyron and Darian. These Cleveland Early College high school juniors are perched above the field in the broadcast booth. They are giving their commentary and play-by-play of this game.
It's like a school-wide book club, and if I want to talk to someone about the book, there's always someone I can talk to.
This book is part of the One School, One Book reading program at Mary Bethune Pre-K through 8 school started last year. This is the 4th book the entire school has read together.
As we think about doing violence prevention work in the city and any work in the city where we're going to be focused on the improvement of the lives of our residents, it is essential that we include resident voice. And we want to make sure that our young people, the youth in our city, know that their voice matters. And we want to center a lot of our ideas, a lot of our interventions in the things that they are telling us that they actually need.
No more silence! And not violence!
It's people like these students here that make this community a better place to live. Actions like this should never go unrecognized, but they often do. So today, we wanted to take time to personally thank them for assisting those small children, and their actions ensured the safety and reunited them with their mother. Thank you for assisting the Cleveland Division of Police in reuniting these children with their family. It's citizens like you that make a difference in our community.
Tonight we're here at Rocker Mortgage Fieldhouse for our annual CMSD Thanksgiving dinner. It's a great opportunity for us, our entire team, our coaches, and our players to give back to the community and specifically to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District.
Welcome to our school and the unveiling of our new Verizon Innovation Lab.
I like being at the choice fair because it's better than looking in the brochure, and I can actually have a visual of what I'm looking for.
It makes me proud to live in the district as well as have opportunities individualized based for her.
It's a lot of people that is rooting for us as a team to bring history back to Cleveland. You understand? We have no doubt. We've been in this thing for 11 to 12 weeks, months, I mean, you know, so we just got to go and finish it out. And we're gonna get that done, all right?
Steps up throwing. Coverage is good. Oh, what a grab! Going up to get it and coming
with it is Demarion Witten, the tight end. And the final seconds will tick away. The Glenville Tarblooders do in fact make history. First Cleveland Municipal School District school to win a state football championship during the playoff era. The Glenville Tarblooders, the Division IV state champs in 2022.
Let's show some love for our state champions one more time! I just want to say, on behalf of the great city of Cleveland, this team has made everybody proud. Everybody proud. Not only did these young men show what greatness looks like in Cleveland, but they made history in our great city.
Desmond walked into the East Professional Center gym with his head held high. Holding a hat from the school, he plans to play football. Desmond also attended both CMSD HBCU combines. He was noticed by the Alabama A&M recruiter and became the first player who attended a combine to receive a scholarship offer.
So last week, international philanthropist Mackenzie Scott donated nearly $2 billion to 343 organizations that help underserved communities. And today it is my pleasure to share that she included in that huge donation a $20 million gift to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District.
Thank you, Mackenzie Scott.
Thank you, Mackenzie Scott. Thank you, Mackenzie Scott.
These 40 students from high schools across the district came to East Professional Center with one task: to give money to worthy causes. First, the students divided up and read the 93 grant applications totaling $5 million. They had to decide which grants should be funded from the Get More Opportunities Fund.
Today we are kicking off a year-long initiative called Cleveland Reads. Our goal over the course of 2023 is to get Clevelanders to read 1 million books and/or read 1 million minutes throughout the course of the year.
Lincoln West School of Science and Medicine High School Principal Juliet King gave a tour of the classrooms located inside Metro's main campus to Congresswomen Chantel Brown and Amelia Sykes, along with United States Department of Human and Health Services Secretary Javier Becerra and Metro Health CEO Dr. Erica Steed. On this tour, they talked about increasing the pipeline of healthcare workers.
Hello everybody, we're so happy to be here in Cleveland and just spent the morning visiting some amazing schools. I'm Cindy Martin, Deputy Secretary of Education, representing Secretary Cardona for our Raise the Bar, Lead the World tour, where we're looking across the country on this tour around excellent academic learning conditions and how we're increasing student access to high quality learning like we see here.
With pleasure that I welcome you to the new Executive Grill.
Being this is going into my 23rd, 24th year, just how we've come from a small little cafeteria program, just cooking for the people in the building and the students, to the reach that we've accomplished over the last few years, and how we're going to be able to engage with the community more now.
We went on Edgewater to clean up the beach and pick up microplastics.
They're from like bigger plastics, and they've decomposed and like degraded into tiny little bits.
Nearly 56 years to the day Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his Rise Up speech at Glenville High School, the Cleveland Restoration Society unveiled a Cleveland Civil Rights Trail marker.
This is amazing for our scholars.
And I think it's going to be a good movement for the neighborhood to see that the marker is here and the legacy that he left.
I certify that all the students on this stage today have met all of the educational requirements of the state of Ohio and the Cleveland Metropolitan School District and have passed all of the required parts of the Ohio graduation and the Ohio State test. These students are now ready to receive their diplomas.
excited. Anytime I can meet with students, it brightens up my day. I also know you guys are my toughest crew I had, so I'll have to be on my best.
The announcement is in regarding who will be the new leader at the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Dr. Warren Morgan there. He's taking over in July.
Cleveland, it feels great to be home. It just feels really, really great to be home. And words can't describe how excited I am for this opportunity. I'm extremely humbled, honored, but above all, just extremely grateful.
Educators at Paul L. Dunbar Arts Enrichment Academy welcomed students as they walked into the building to start this year's CMSD Summer Learning Experience. Parents and students both excited.
The Summer Learning Experience is the best time for kids to do projects that interest them. They had to say so in what they wanted to do, how they wanted to do it, and now they take ownership of their project, which is what demonstration learning is all about.
So I think the reason that we made this book to show people that they need to stop cyberbullying, stop doing stuff on social media or even in real life, and everything else.
So I want you to understand that this book, our book, your book that you created, is going to help so many other young adults just like you. So you should be very proud of yourself that you're courageous enough to even write about this or create this book to help somebody else. You're not just thinking about your sister, you're thinking about other people as well. And I'm so proud of you for that.
A week before they board a plane, students participated in a media day of sorts. They told reporters about the project they call Hands Across Borders that they've been working on for months. They use 3D printers to make prosthetic arms for children in Ecuador.
To be able to provide access to all of our families and scholars right here on the main floor of East Professional Center, even more in addition to providing 24-hour service.
So CMSD family, we are confronted by challenges, but our momentum is growing. Our resilience is irrepressible, and our success is certain. I'm so excited and happy to be home. I look forward to welcoming you soon to the start of a new school year. I continue to be grateful, and I thank you.
I don't like these chairs.
I thought they looked comfortable, but then yeah.
Okay, we'd like to go home. Could you guys
The board is now back in public session. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the suspension of a non-teaching employee.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, any explanation?
Yes, in response to the board chair's request for an explanation of each discipline of the resolution presented to the board for a vote for following executive session, the first one we're going to take is for a resolution to approve a 3-day suspension without pay for violation of district policies, procedures, and rules.
Any discussion? Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall? Yes. Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar? Yes. Dr. Thomas? Ms. Welch-Howe? The motion passes with 8 votes.
Passes. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the suspension of a non-teaching employee.
Second.
Dr. Morgan, any explanation?
Yes. this resolution is to approve a recommendation for a 10-day suspension without pay for violation of district policies, procedures, and rules.
Any discussion from board members? Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott? Mrs. Hudnall? Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar? Dr. Thomas? Ms. Welchow? The motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The resolution passes. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the suspension of a school-based administrative employee.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, can we please have an explanation?
Yes, this is a resolution to approve a recommendation for a 10-day suspension without pay for violation of district policies, procedures, and rules.
Any discussion from board members? Mr. Stockdale, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hudnall?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas? Ms. Welchow? Motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The resolution passes. Any other new business? As announced earlier, the next regular board meeting will be a board work session on Tuesday, September 12th at 6:30 p.m. at East Professional Center. The chair will now entertain a motion to adjourn this board business meeting.
Second.
Hearing no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Good night. Oh man, I just realized I didn't date any of those.